Yo, what's up, YouTube? Hello, sirs. A little bit lazy here. Of the tomato stream, a little bit lazy, not picking up the bones. Boom. Let's wait a minute or two for people to show up. Someone hacking. Let's gonna wait for um, well, let's just start now.
If a bullet could not languish and conquer. Hither equals over there, to or toward this place. Thither equals over there, opposite place of hither. Thus equals as a result or consequence of this. Saith equals said. Entereth equals enter. ACHH we equals Scottish. In it equals isn't it. Chapter 1, British Nerd Fight Club. Historian bodybuilder James had a beautiful black body, shining as the deepest onyx, the night without the stars and constellations, abyss without an answer. Black elephants with a black sun on a canvas of terrible reflection. Black as the minds of royal usurpers, disillusional and secret spite spiffing insane, oh dear, black as painted black Vanta black, well actually maybe there were hues of grey and crispy. Being 2.2 meters tall and 170 kilos of anatomical muscle gave him gigantic legs and in extension shins like heads, also because after reasonable tall lengths, it's only the legs that grow thus, but he did not look like a frog either, or a cyclist. He had the endurance and ease for exaggerated unfair physical work, broad thus like a tall brawn unit you don't expect to face in challenge, playing the odds, there's always a bigger barbarian, but he was an abstract reserved thinker, contemporary and true. Rectangular glasses without frames looked teachy with his brown autumn coat, in contemporary London wear loud and audacious. The glasses could have made him look a legendary nerd if he was just an attorney or skinny doctor. Contemporary designer umbrella, black and white striped tailor-made suit, considering having sleeves up. He could be quiet, listening and stuck in the inside enough for people think he wasn't extroverted sometimes, he would listen and wonder, fantasize about people automatically. He tried to have solitude alone, people leave when they like to, can't rely on other people to be happy, and there is so much time to gather brains, to analyze, create and create strength. Solitude and introspection,
I want to have a good day today. I slept a full night, although I got up late, because I couldn't sleep during the night. Hours and hours of staying up staring into the roof and trying to be awake for a while to get tired later. I guess I managed to fall asleep, if I may say that. I guess whatever.
Solitude and introspection, analysis or worst, sedating darkness. He had been lonely with life sometimes, waiting for his time, moving to a new city just meant existing alone. He was a social whirlwind for new friends maybe,
Hey,
to be brotherly,
genius,
drunk and
the way,
silly,
YouTube
connecting, playing things out automatically in his mind.
Tag on YouTube.
Uniting commonly was the population of lonely people.
No idea.
People didn't understand his poetry, his music was too niche and stereotyped. Like not allowed to be quiet, he was like someone strange to analyze in the street, taking his hat off, his story was not told immediately. He stood out being tall, and out people were, or they were destructive, he had a rumor of being good, or not wanted. He had a thick, short, feminist-looking haircut he colored white or maybe blonde black later in the book and had DEATH tattooed into his left knuckles and then again in WHITE on his medieval armor. He was a very muscular V-shaped gym human with 1.7 meters between shoulders and arms like trees. Chiseled manly face in the Chad direction, square buttocks, striated upper legs, like feathers, like an anatomy chart, disproportional 3D delts. To have an aesthetic look, like body sculpturing is about, you must have larger shoulders, work out all four heads, it is a weak adjustable muscle, the most injured at the gym, but to get 3D shoulders you can't just work out everything, you must work out the shoulders twice as much. The triceps was 2/3 of the arm, like a triceratops, an oak, meaty but didn't look unhealthy. Thus like Kevin Levrone, he had legs for arms, triceps looking then more differentiating than the biceps, so it is. Handsome everything, something to make the world's strongest men jealous. There seems to be a certain wisdom, patience with the greatest strength genetics, they can think strategically conquering society, mathematical. Having below 10% body fat can make you feel fatigue and brain fog, but James compensated by thinking he looked good. Looking into his mirror that didn't show enough of the body at any angle, he found green eyes that looked blank, could have been the Sahara Desert, focused first then intelligent, a specimen, could make you think about an INTJ like Arnold Schwarzenegger and fell down the stairs backwards like he wasn't wearing a shirt, he missed the smart refrigerator. He had taught history in London for 3 years, he remembered having a genius lazy brain about his future until he was attracted by leisurely university history teaching with Greek philosophy. There was searching for his fitting potential a worrying, frustrating amount of time or until something was lazy enough. There were so many things he could do, anything his previous teachers had said, but when faced with the decision he didn't feel he had the right perspective or choosing demeanor, layers of perspectives for the right times he had, needless of action. Nothing was going to change, in history, was it? He was in a brutal band called Until the End, or next Sunday in a progressive metal band called Terribly Drawn Circles. He needed an outlet, being creative, thinking about songs and segments on automatic. They were working on the songs, I'm Going to Pull the Plug, When the Neighbors Wake Up, Life is Horrible and Then You Die, and Funeral of Dorks. You need more blast beats. Listening to their music was like brain surgery and a cat biting your toe at the same time, modern and niche like poetry aficionados wanting to go to a club or being raw food vegan. Not the progressive band. What was unusual with this backbone linebacker build or combination wasn't endurance or speed but the clever mind indeed, speaking and being a thinker first, a surprising poetic giant, a deliberate cognizant, a nerdy 140 to 150 IQ when not lifting. An average prog metal instrumentalist, and viewer, listener. Being the smartest and brawniest was awesome, yet like hidden and hard to interpret, obviously it felt like being kindly recognized in your best theoretical version today. If someone insults your triceps you insult them intellectually, if someone insults your nerdy hobby you energetically throw them out of the window into the garbage disposal, hairy legs sticking up. Sometimes he was a gentle, fascinated, patient, observing, uninteractive person, seems related to strength. Being fascinated by color combination moths, tear-jerking shimmering red dawns, women and the human condition. Some mistook it for complacency and insensitivity showing nothing but he could very actionable and emotional when it was finally time to act. The reservation and truth of the analyst. He had a conservative energy and reservation sometimes but believed in left ideas now being convinced by monologuing people, although giving everything a chance. Maybe he showed a less conservative side when speaking, in the brilliance and tolerance of theory. He had a pet 1.2 meters continental giant rabbit, these really exist, that ate vegetables for him at 100 pounds a month, called Sigmund the Destroyer. He was the light brown happiness with the big ears, his feet echoed like drums, dormant speed and giant-sized dormant power. He appreciated being fed these different vegetables shaped, stacked like vegetable cakes and being seemingly safe, but what if someone brought a dog? They had before. He viewed in front of the very sunny hobby room and looked out through the satellite room, high up like a cat. He liked looking at different people, recognizable cosmopolitan human world and was happy until stimulation from something else was needed. As a rabbit things had to be familiar and thus he would show his cute sides, and flop being in the way like an object. He was alert and cautious, easy to flight but being 1.2 meters there was a fair amount of reasonably fair ground, he knew he was a special kind of animal, every was bewildered and curious. He had his fears of being alone and flight, he was scared and went places too far, you can really deep dive in fear, but would reason himself fine in his circumstances half the time. Obviously he communicated what he needed and would consciously change, when it was that time. He was friendly with his human that came and went, strange alien-like purpose, but what purpose what is there staying in here all the time, he wanted a garden. There was no second bunny. He had an expensive apartment in London, all apartments in London are expensive, where everything was sleek, futuristic, black and white, artsy and claustrophobic. It was just 120 square meters but he had fit in a lot of furniture. He was materialistic about his apartment, his TV, everything had to give an impression of course, exhausting and a look into his mind. Artist on vacation, everything had a place. He used his considerable contemporary salary to buy a living room set after fitting kitchen set, it made him feel personal. It's like the start of the Fight Club movie. He was good at memorizing parts of history, he countered like an informed punch, something too true. He was already ready to pay attention and categorize history, to point out a fifth detail too far. He had the complete history of the world, series, memorized gistly in 15 books, but thought it didn't go deep enough. What was the point of the left revolutions of South America, that's more important. Why did America stop every single one, even if communism doesn't work out so well in practice and so far, what is the threat to capitalism and how costly do it need to be to defend this broken system? Turns out when you're a thinker you like getting to the bottom of why and how things work, fascinated and unrelenting, unwavering, as you need it, every thinker taking the same path not noticing each other, proper and thorough inner world. Curious in a way doesn't always make sense and exhausting to exert and listen to, but to get things going sometimes you need to have an extra fire lit under you. The energy to keep unwavering, countering with a second truth. If you miss the chance to be thorough intellectually, you might miss the differentiating part. Every personality, maybe out of 16 has their own kind of introverted underfire, especially the introverts and a time to fit the intensity. 95% of people are thinkers, we're not orangutans. Unless differentiating personality types, thought James mixing his protein powder with cocoa powder, spirulina algae and creatine in a white tank top. The V-shape gleamed good in contrast to the white, the room was comfortably dimly lit and would tell him to sleep if he had listened deeper. He had a smoothie of healthy dark green leaves, pure fiber, flax seeds and long pepper, he would make another one and fit in the excess health, forgetting he had another 5 things to fit into his eccentric intelligence. Better safe than sorry. In recovery for perfect recovery, he was in his routine of gymming and reading, both making him smarter, BDNF vascular and through language. The prospect of reading is enough to increase IQ points, the efficient part is the language part. He was thinking about how there's the perfect and worst position in 4D chess or 5D golf. The smart thing to figure out here is, and how to beat 4D chess. There is not a certainty or probability cloud but you have to go for the next best thing. If you had an AI being able to consider every let's say 1000 positions you would find the swing that moved the ball to the hole in 4D dimensions at the same time. Just look for it, you wait until you find the guaranteed best move. And the worst one, both backwards unless you swung at a limited amount of degrees. In 7-dimensional golf there could be an uneven amount of middle ground and perfect cohesive swings. We must quantify strange infinites, listing exceptions to logic or consider brackets like pre-thought to consider same proclivities, they are like a dip into an abyss, thus in thought. The feeling was light, hovering and lightly touching subjects. Was everyone unique, impressionable who wanted to change the world a feeler then? More feeling than they thought maybe, so many people are just not impressionable or concerned. James was an ENTP Myers-Briggs personality, great personality writing, concerned with ideas, future and theory, math, science, logic, abstract instead of practical, the intuitive extroverted engaging in the world giving him artistic blur and ideas, and being able to pick complicated relations seemingly from nothing, from a mind in the clouds in abstract trance contexts. No one else can do this actually. 6 brain areas are always activated instead of 2, relations. I've got it, they say, clearly these far things relevant to people are connected like this. Worse at certain realistic things, in danger of getting realistically outpaced in armchair analysis. When an intelligent person feels like to analyze properly as you should, the others always feel different interrupting urges. Surely this would be interesting to everyone and they would listen like in school or something. Debating, innovating and being intuitive, changing himself and his surroundings into his visionary future. P, and then E for extroverted. The future, it depended on his intelligence. As an idea person, an ENTP's first run at an idea isn't their best, it's their last, all come out unfiltered. He was a man prating of constant improvement, who spends all their life without improvement. Not the philosophers who wonder we're good enough the way we are. Performance and maybe even perfection, not always seen and not always recognized like a deeper theory level. A lot of people's inner worlds can be surprising, hard to imagine and resounding like you failing to admit being bad at something, yet still intelligent. It's a different world than people who are just meeting the weekends or studies to go to an expensive bar, maybe assertive in career, wealth or privilege, with more than a party or who live for final, too late vacations outside of work or excitement and stupid exciting risk. For those that live for gourmand experiences and the best of culture, for those that question and contrarian fit and conquer, for those that live perfectly confined in the illusions of society and those who don't. It's painstaking eternal cleanse, existing for the future and not the rewarding present, easily finding goals possible in 10 years, fit ambition on the good days and never recognition quick. The bane of realizing, improving everything mediocre, to become some sort of unit. Maybe an Übermensch, quote Nietzsche on an insane day. When you are a thinker you spend
Don't really need a super attack potion for that.
the bane of realizing, improving everything mediocre, to become some sort of unit. Maybe an Übermensch, quote Nietzsche on an insane day. When you are a thinker you spend your whole life learning for the sake of learning, never approved, comparing and improving always out of reach. When I would be perfect in brain, speed and brawn, everyone would respect me, they would bask in my glory and I would take it from there. Although when balanced he turned insightful, coming like a new stranger, surprising him too, another exhausting idea for sharing, through easily interrupted. The introverted side people didn't see was that of a nerdy book reader, mathy and strategic, like a brilliant scientist, more dry, logical. The introverted logical part of the thinkers is supposed to be completely dry, even without creativity and intuition. Wouldn't want to not be logical. Climbing societal ladders quietly, more so than the primary extroverted side, interacting with the world and gave him the creativity, resources and strategy to do so. It felt competitive but didn't have as much primary resources as some other people do, the very feeling indeed is auxiliary. In lack of ability against the smartest chessboard masterminds INTJ, for example, they feel they just need more time, or that they are still onto some good stuff. Every personality using their secondary function feel like they are onto some good stuff. Some might be never be reached because of the simple fact they are not introverted. Only 33% are introverted, but everyone has an introverted world, enjoying pursuing alone, exciting different like series binged and unknown unless you talk about it. The depth of the introvert is more surprising said to the way they talk about pen and paper. Enjoying expanding the limits of his knowledge and intelligence, he had a thirst for knowledge and performance, strength that was hard to understand unless he was doing the right thing. Like a voice telling him to inappropriately do something insanely silly. Everyone's eccentricities and quirks make sense when they're doing the right thing. Some of the weirdest people are good at explaining things thoroughly for newcomers, but they also need to listen,
I'll
match.
strength here, because the weapon
He
has
can
higher
spend time
slash
with people,
bonus.
drink and cheer, but also a long time alone as an ambivert. Ambiverts get energy from people but are too sensitive to keep it for long. Like a sadness over a truth. He was an intellectually overexcitable typical in intellect, imagination, at least he had an imagination and psychomotor. Incredibly, excellent active mind, extreme desire to synthesize truth, morals, contemporary theory, to analyze and categorize and think about thinking. He could be a lone wolf but not as bad as the introverted thinkers, the ENTP is the extrovert with the biggest introverted side. Their minds is a fine place to be alone with, not just the existing world.
No, that's true.
Some other smart things he was thinking about, he could have been a professor in any science but he was lazy, waiting for spurs of energy and reliable results. Don't think of quantum physics as logic with exceptions, think of it as exceptions with logic, throw the logic out the window. To get James' attention you could talk about comfortable things but not comfortable enough, flashes of enthusiasm and neuroticism. If you quantify the next logical thing, a sequence of theory, a higher exponentiality, what's the next smart thing in physics after?
Are you going to leave because you don't have my tags that I have on my Kick and my Twitch? Oh, look at fucking yesterday's stream here. Holy shit. It's gonna be some good shit. Don't you understand? What am I supposed to say here? Well, stick around quickly or I'll stop streaming to YouTube. Get someone else. It's good enough. What's not getting through?
If you quantify the next logical thing, a sequence of theory, a higher exponentiality, what's the next smart thing in physics after electron position into a probability cloud? We think it must functions as 5 plus 5 or 5 times 5 or necessarily 5 times 5 times 5, but it is not necessarily true, it is just nonlinear, random. What is silly over time through nets of copying control? First twist contemporary. James had a body he had carefully built with steroids over the last 10 years with a brilliant eccentric theory to training, research like a scientist in muscular lab coats and best of the best knowledge of nutrition that few really knew about at this point. Just look at these natural athletic performance enhancers. Sometimes pivoting in books he felt lucky to read, that is potential. Googling the right efficient gym questions for the perfect gym session. Although he had spent the last half his life, like many others, learning about the perfect gym session. Like perfecting a sculpture learning theory and quickly feeling like monologuing. Explaining like fairly scientific, everyone explained like this is true and meta. So many YouTube videos, exercising vlogs from average people who just did steroids, that is the cycle. You find a new fitness YouTuber, they talk about a different exercising, then they just took steroids. But literally being brilliant, thus he walked around with the perfect updated theory like golden seer, if people would only ask. If you're not gaining enough muscle you must go back to the 8 basics. What a stupid thing to do it was, when you take steroids you lose your mind, not just your dingleberries. Jesus, liver thinks you're an alcoholic. He had figured out a way back with foods that increase learning speed and problem solving, but if there was only a way like with magic things could be solved. Thankfully this is a fantasy book. For now there was a muscle monster posing the most impressive, he knew every number that could be given to a muscle, every thought to theoretical and time for every exercise and intensity. Reps and short recovery, the strongest nerd had figured it out. How much does variety help versus the best exercise for every muscle group? Cocoa powder gave as much grip strength as creatine, athletic performance enhancers were sometimes cheap too and he used for anti-cancer properties etc. He used 6 like nutritional yeast, spirulina algae, black peppermint oil, hard fenugreek tea seeds, maca roots, ashwagandha, rosenroot and a nitrate diet giving him a whopping 50 to 60% increased athletic performance, exactly endurance, speed and strength. The legs went by themselves, repetition was a thing in theory and he had a huge advantage over other steroid users. There was no chill and then he was ready to go again after 2 hours where others needed 20. Legendary exercising routines he had, capable of doing heavier and longer than anyone else. By the way the gym sessions were 3 hours each. He liked the atmosphere, aluminum can sound and the smell of the plastic mats at the gym. Gym luxury affected him a lot, like there's the reward he's looking for his efforts. Thusly pinnacle beastum musculum felt like he could just add more and more weight on some muscle groups, it really was an unbreakable endeavor. Like a hero, he was supposed to have this perspective and position. He was a gym monologuer, ever chiseling at the perfect gym session and advice, philosophized did he feel right in the muscle contracting or was it a fake distraction? Which contraction is a distraction? His small perfect packages of advice like a tweet max 280 letters, in the gym, the ENTP being the best to synthesize their thoughts into coherent, well-worded exactly what they meant. He wanted things to be easy, focusing on the biggest things, respecting every gym traveler no matter where they were. Twist contemporary 2. He fought in old-fashioned medieval games as in unit, knight style. They really exist as long as you can afford the armor, just like before, and don't hit below the steel belt. He got excited for the Knight World Championships as much as anything. Light armored macemen with 40 functional helmets designed like unique for a person. There was protection, vision, and leather sideburns. Dual wielding axes, round shield or no shield. Modern arbalist invention, shooting point blank L through a third of the arrows of a bow. Shooting through plate, but point blank bows were very plate piercing similar. Two-handed maces like made out of Japanese wood, double maul ends, or hammers being too heavy, always like an equation. Bald and pale users egregious. Polearms and steel plate are way too good, like a castle you don't think about damage underneath. There's always a vulnerable no armor point to a knight. Maybe one should judge technique and get extra point for other things than just whacking steel. Suggestion: 1 point for every hit, or just enact medieval computer games in real life. They got it figured out. Let's see who wins in a free-for-all. His first weapon of choice was a triple-equipped polearm because it could be used as a spear, slice on the front, or hammer at the back. With the range a cleaving menace, like longer two-handed swords he scrutinized. Secondly, a giant Japanese two-handed katana, nodashi, he wore in one hand.
I'm a stalker.
The dual wield was unrelenting and truly
Okay.
menacing. James thought of every dual
I'm
wield
not
to
gonna
be
speak
unique
to
and
you.
problem-solving to a shield, and reliable when switched around.
Why be
Also,
upset?
you weren't allowed to
You
hammer
know?
plate. It's considerably more
Just,
expensive and efficient. He could swap the wield for defense with a spiked mace, an elongated thick blade kite shield, meaning it was sharp as a sword in the end. Often you can smack, stun, and stab with your shield in combat. There is more to this simple defensive position. Maybe the enemy is so within the reach of the shield length, yet trying to go through. Full black plate armor, white, gilded gold, some places smooth, or arms and legs free. Both had their advantages. Better with a kite shield than armor if I could just choose one, thought James strategically, masterfully, and a bit playful competitive. Block and slash where my arms go thus. A crowd favorite was his armored boxing. Everyone loved knights boxing furiously. Some of these guys stun like a warhammer with their fists through plate. With weapons like the polearm, James also put 4.1 decimeter glaives into his right gauntlet. A polearm is only dangerous at the pointy end. Closer attacks were stabbed with his gauntlet George steroid unicorn pants thus. Everything changed like a chapter, but not yet, where one evening after hot medieval games he heard someone sniggering in his computer corner thus. There was nothing there? It seems he was being sent incredibly suggestive gotchi-muchi songs. There goes another one. Something was just too ridiculous to keep a straight face. Specifically trying to communicate, what is this you're listening to, human? Revealed and silly over time, James stretched out his hand into his apartment nothingness and felt temperature difference, cold, something wet, suction and stretching of his mind. Things changed as he stuck around. That could only mean aliens? Deducted panicky James, they must be serious sternly as per needed basis, but this through sensitivity that too ridiculous for the paid work thus. Advanced civilization through technology, carefree world where we toil in despair and worry. Technology advances pretty quick with just 1,000 years through for anyone, or ourselves. More sensitive and smarter than your imagination, James used his imagination. James had read about the most common alien encounters on Wikipedia and thus imagined the Scandinavian-looking alien, a cousin to humans concerned with spiritual paths. James realized just thinking about summoning aliens, and summoning, chanting annoying should be enough. James had been scientifically open to aliens because of the prominence of 1,000 planets with life conditions like Earth. The four thinker personalities believe in aliens the most. Look at the pollution they exert into the atmosphere seen through color gas cameras. But what do you do now when you actually meet one now? Partying? What be thine alien, Grey? Homunculus? Scandinavian cousin? Stop sending out shuttles looking for life, we're right here, I admit it. James thought, can you think what I think, and then said it. And feel what you feel, Jim Human. He looked like a mix of gray alien and something taller forsooth. Did you figure out time travel yet? James was ready to have a pleasant, well-mannered conversation. It only works with special fashionable hamsters thus put through non-Intel graphics cards. Just recently, the humorless voice answered, it was unexpectedly difficult, like learning a new language, difficult, like being unable to master. Time, space, dimension, machine and spiritual opening at the same time, not a lot of people thought of that. It can't happen to me, and let me guess, you cannot show thus? No human unit, think of 5 reasons why. I am one of the smartest humans. Unexpectedly, he said, very well, Jim Human. What about pollution, balance, population? Shut up. Unexpectedly and tiresome, James pulled out a gun. If you threaten me, you will always think to rectify the situation, you will come to compensate, think up new ideas, but smart boy, you will never be smart enough to figure it out. I wish there was a time where a bullet didn't win against every duel thus and everything, the gun wins, I will win. There is no skill, no time to think, the cool things now is the size of the firearm you wield, only the aim. The alien man dodged like morphing, swirling through a dash, cheating through the human technology. The alien took his wrist, coldly threatened, and he was indeed pulled through a cascade of time and colors, but it felt like his feet were still on the ground. He had been transported to medieval London 1,000 years ago. He was ostracized with a katana odachi and 18 bullets in a time of arbalist and warhammer, blood and ice, wine and piss. Chapter 2.
Alright, let's go over here.
End of Hell chapter. The raiders procured weapons like the Atlantean sword and trident of deep godly angers, the motorcycle and pets of hell were considered. Many contraptions from Leonardo da Vinci. Legendary item, the sky harpoon. A magical trent. Indeed, James froze and cut out ingots of gold from circles of greed everyone carried. James would keep to the succubus, and in a crush she to him, he showed the outside world and explained to the evil. She would be enthralled by jobs and teaching you could do. A horde of agonizing hell population came with the group into the elevator leading from Circle 2 to 1. Understaffed Lucy had actually brought some angels from heaven to sort out all those people deserving to get out of hell, finally. They sat in the court with Ouroboros. He knew through this was not the time for him and just kept it about the people. Hilarious, Ouroboros said, as they exited, Satan died for his sins. He was never here for the staff, abusing like a king. Will you grant us passage out? You are only cursed if you came in here dead, gentlemen. What inspired your immediate unicorn attack, Yensid? Double rainbows? I was observing the farting steroid unicorns in their natural habitat, being disguised as steak, and they kept farting in my ear. The most common farting unicorn name is Seabreeze. Love letter from Satan to Jeff Bezos. Please make another mistake, sin greedily, come down to hell, love Satan. You have potential to be not only good but bad. Being on a throne lets you rule and you can do whatever you want, there is only power and competitive tricks. A few days later, a pleasant 2 weeks. Weeks of toiling through spiritual productivity, technically and intellectual performance. They were sitting in the university benches being considered with own theories and papers. What if there's another plane? What shall be our next plane? The planets are connected like cousins. Unless the dimension is flat. Everyone knows of the Coffee Bean Caribbean Islands, watery island plane. Let's go, there are beans and legends. The place is 50% oxygen compared to Earth's 20%, it will make for different species and generous ability, evolution. You will get used to it, it's not dangerous, makes the rum taste better, great sleep like waking up lucky, and with enough pressure to the chest the oxygen recovers the brain. True. You might just as well pressure with your arms pushing your chest. I say let's align with the French. There is strategy between every territory and they're all eager to have us. Fine, let's go through stormy lightning jetting night through the portal of dimensional greed. I will sell my service and competence like a new set contemporary. Legendary, ENTJ, Pirate Napoleon Rebluchon, not Bonaparte, was about productivity, excellence, productivity, efficiency and productivity. He had a plan for everything, and when there wasn't action he thought of strategies. There was action about him, speaking so quickly and with such indignation to work maybe he'd be reincarnated as flashy Steve Jobs. Which is also an ENTJ actually, he had dreams and career dreams, like a strategy but in a dreamlike state. This had some sensitivity, but the one to ruin their plans is usually their neurotic bad mental health, or likelier than tough words with toughness that's met like summoning a first layer of tolerance. Napoleon was a man that was as tough as it gets, like James, let's see if they will argue about anything. A leader with a powerful arsenal of friends, he made friends with thinkers and was a self-improver compared to their super-efficient group counterpart, the boss or secretary personality, one-letter difference, ESTJ. There are many differences, for example how they are when they are not whipping people into efficiency, Napoleon being too tough and showing no emotion, maybe, being abstract and intuition like something reached blindly in a dream. These personalities are both very sensitive like to their five senses, like reflexes, so much input for their brain and through people. ENTJ being vulnerable to cruel truths, cruel acts, about his abilities perhaps and shifting cold speech. This is the most sensitive thinker perhaps, like sensitive senses, behind a tough group leading exterior, it's tough like impossible intelligence, fueling a retort, all business, no bullshit. In efficiency there is not always time for emotion, if everyone cared for you smallest details, but smothering details might just the right thing to do sometimes. But he was about group strategic productivity then business. He was a thinker businessman in this world, climbing ladders of capitalism that was like a quest of honor, statistically being happy and good at all sorts of work, lended like an efficient arm. This is not near the 1700s, but they have the newly discovered 1000s Chinese black powder for weapons. A remarkable aromatic burnt Neapolitan, he had made coffee in the plain Caribbean Coffee Bean Islands, it was as pungent as perfume, but didn't taste like perfume. It fell short with milk through and the old ladies around the islands drank coffee quick. It traded competitively around the islands, but people like Count, Viscount, the cunt were ready to invade his vineyards. Stormy he had been stopped at the docks and 6 ships were broadsiding. In the dark bottom storage Napoleon found Viscount carrying off his produce. Like a sinner but the kind of predator to not be startled while getting caught, but steal harder. En garde. Stop in the name of Caribbean Island Coffee and the force of Napoleon Rapier contemporary. I got your product figured out. Viscount was known as a great sculptor, making 7 sculptures already of himself. You wouldn't destroy my produce if you could never have it? Viscount's huge white ponytail like captain's hat looked aristocratic, he was the best dressed on the battlefield for sure. And incredibly flamboyant. No I wouldn't, he raised his white gloves and 2 luxurious rapier. They fought with rapier cutlass, a new argument. Pirate Napoleon shot a grape shot big as a fist from his long musket, Viscount rolled like he was playing Dark Souls and Napoleon destroyed his own mahogany desk, embers flashing his beard. Viscount stabbed for his heart greedily twice but was superiorly deflected. Viscount was fast and maybe weak, he would figure out that soon every thrust was piercingly deflected. Napoleon made a 6 slash on his chest, sacre bleu candle, huh? and Viscount disarmed through the pain, defeated. An irrefutable piercing point. He felt like he had never worked out, but I guess there was no armor. Upon the decks, pirates fought without much clothes and armor, winning a battle that could determine the next. Viscount has been taken, yield unto us. Comically, a lot of pirates tried to calm each other into stopping fighting. It's over. Stop fighting. Viscount has been defeated. He opened his voice to speak, but instead caught a flying chicken in his mouth. It fluttered upset and confused. Please, my legs are sensitive. A pigeon took a shit on his shoulder like experimental painter. Your pirates are standing on a knife's edge. Edge of a knife. A pigeon took a shit on his shoulder. Thank you, pigeons. Can you aim better next time? Thus a pigeon shit on his next shoulder. I am beyond any pigeon shitting, he said bravely. Napoleon shot Count through a cannon straight up. He looked like a smoked chicken leg and in pain. A golden fleeced, disproportionately large legs and ears bunny came to Napoleon's side with pink shining antlers, Windlance the golden-footed. You can have the new vineyard, Ford and I almost drank these barrels of smoked habanero Henri Bourgeois, I buy my release. Smoky black hair ruined Count Seth. Find your captain. In a culverin, Viscount was fired 30 meters into the sea painfully and his crew ran like theater pals concerned with their leader. He's a pussy, but at least he cares about the environment. It's great working for him, he is a sensitive coward, many books. The Coffee Bean Islands were like a huge island territory, flying migrating whales with ghost light green luminescent undersides, except for the northwest and a huge hole of water in the middle plus 4 islands. There were 7 territories, 8 colonies and 9 pirate factions fighting. Elves, France, England, Dwarf, Italy, Spain, China, with the 8th colony being barbarian and 9th pirate faction the penniless corsairs. You were not allowed to eat the cows, sheep and even goats here, because they produced the cheese. The wine was warm, fruity and 50% like juice and was a place of nutty, chocolatey, creamy and bitter coffee. The sport was a deconstructed version of baseball that usually ended up with everyone drinking wine then fighting each other. This was a place where people drank more wine than beer, dark rum over spirits. Because of the wine culture, drinking lower percent wine was okay, like contemporary, every being pliant with the new reasonable. And for teenagers it was served in school, maximum 2 cups. Turns out alcohol makes you forget what you learn, oh well. Just like in France. Smoking wisdom stem, clarity leaf, Blackguard's bountiful cheeky retort and Cuban cigars was also legal at 16.
1 second.
A land of delicacy for some, a
I'll be
land
right
of making
back.
money for those with taste buds. Everyone wanted the best, latest gourmand thing, ready to pay for it. There were breadsticks, chocolate chips and peanut hazelnut chocolate pizza. They had restaurants like Religious, kept up to 14 icons of kept reviews, new cuisine, fusion cuisine. The food reviewers were cruel and feared, ready to be presumptuous. The latest places, some affordable once in a while, they blew romantic experiences together, a cute time but they savored the food more. Fat people were held to different conversations, they knew how it was here, the chefs were supposed to be overweight. The chocolate was sacred when you bought another 100 grams luxury piece for €7. Olive oil and barbecue sauce was the religion, sacred, sold in artistic bottles, talked about like frail relatives, like dirty allowance. Piracy was common as Saturdays or maybe Wednesdays, everyone had practiced fencing, cannoneering or hired muscle. Anti-piracy politicians were not ambitious and usually took cigars from the side, but the golden age of coffee beans was not yet. They drank wine in the arguing lower rooms and smoked the cigars between savory lies. The pirates lathed treasure and glided free, they found hoards of treasure and gold to spend in French ports then competitively fought gang to gang, making territory. Offense was better than defense, cigar-smoking masters clasped their heads and they lost 2 territory for 3. It was possible that the most annoying defense, more defense than offense was required, just large armies or mages and animals and ships. The 9 seas were unexplored, the free pirate ports were cozy, small countries luxurious, headed by pirate captains in shipwrecks. One devious plot was paying pirate ports to raid, let's say Port Salut of its defenses, then you siege in and claim the port yourself. We see our hero James, after getting here finding himself in a fine-ass establishment, small dancing room in the Royal Port Salut Ball. He had bribed the guard and smooth-talked himself into the privilege. The small orchestra was going crazy on classical music, speed and intensity technical to metal, wigs flailing. James was dancing like a god, tearing it up with his extreme sports designer wheelchair he did one-wheel wheelies and breakdances with. Our boy could spin on his head, arms out, wheelchair balancing skewed on uneven legs. How did he do this? Although daughters the governors were 50 and the daughters 30, people were only interested in the beautiful daughters. In the end the posh contestants applauded each other and the boy James grabbed the port's governor's daughter, huge bosom and slender waist, let her see the room upside down from his grip, then he kissed her passionately. These daughters could be beautiful like this, with hair up in knots, ginger, blonde and auburn. Thus he exited on his insane magical, black power engine wheelchair, steering with XXL arms and bloody veins popping. His arms looked like he raced wheelchairs. He asked the daughter shorter, humble, linear and contrite. She liked being taller for now but could have enjoyed it more. Would you like to sit in my wheelchair, dwarven technology this is? She sat like a rescued dame. They blazed off in the luxurious governing halls with pitiful pastel coloring, James flying up the walls and looping the ceiling, avoiding people in the way. This was a common tradition. You might have won my heart over dancing again, James. I think for you I have a look at these fine gifts. There are spare artsy parts like bonus quarterly wine. You are rich like doubt. 3 rapiers, stabbing weapons, with luxurious artsy guards, detailed like getting new glasses. I don't have a rapier, fine amethyst. You bought me an amethyst? Quite. James procured a ruby from his pocket with at least shades of pink. Join me, fair lady, for a wheelchair race, fishing of exotic laziness and rum drinking on a sunny beach. Like sinners are we, in lieu of toiling work and beautiful places forbidden. I love this amethyst. Sure, I'll go. Yes, it's with your Cuban friend? Her eyes loved treasure as these ideas. Enter tropical fishing hut and beach, with Monsieur Mansion on the hill aft sunny vineyards. You know this James, the adventurer and collector of keys now? Said Napoleon. Quite a charming rogue, said daughter Weiss, daughter of all actors the governor. I like it when he tries to be posh and luxurious.
Oh wow.
He has a lot of money, people say. He's an adventurer, successful one.
Oh, so we're speaking in
Don't ruin
Swedish.
it. Rev up, gentlemen. James and Olivia with one wheelchair each revved and revved. Eventually fire was starting to break at the bottom wheels. And they are off. Zoom, like greased lightning. James had such a lightning start, but somehow, Olivia is keeping up with him. He's gaining in insanely muscular strides. They pushed each other, wheelchair carnage. James hit the railings of the docks and glided until he had to jump a 2-meter gap down to the next railing. James tried and tried his best, but heart sinking, eventually Olivia rounded him. Finish around the beach. Well, Mr. Olivia was as muscular as steroids themselves, arms like a caricature. Intelligently, Napoleon didn't mind saying, so we are 3 thinkers here, everyone exceptional. I think together we'll be a proud coffee gourmand office. Whatever thus. So you don't mind working for me, French and coffee business, you will be my muscle, fixer and mixer. Olivia spends all his free time mixturing with chemistry. Olivia didn't hear this, like he was selectively deaf. Be careful of the somewhat greater jungle demon, they are green and black colored like vines. Yeah, they're pretty dangerous. There's also the really quite proper jungle demon. Really, they are part of a worshipping cult of god Engelbrecht. They guard entrance to the dungeon of Mook, or prosperity. They are intelligent unless asked normal, chivalrous questions. Indeed. Oh dear. And on this French part of the island we have 6 meters brown jungle pumas called cappuccino macchiato. Don't pull them in the balls or the tail. You're not a man unless you can pull a puma in the balls, said Olivia imposingly. Shut up, muscle man, said Napoleon. Where I come from, Cuba, we say, not all that glitters is gold, not all pumas you can pull balls down. You're not smart like this, it is borrowed words, said Napoleon. They think they are such big kitties, I can beat a puma with my fists or maybe a staff. They just bite in the throat to suffocate, that's all they have with their big arms. Just protect yourself from the claws, wrestle with this cute cat fat. I'm surprised the cheetah doesn't just tackle its foe with its speed. Is there an animal like this? The rhino is weight plus force, but where I come from we realized the peregrine falcon can reach 385 kilometers per hour. You don't see the bird, you just see the seagull getting clapped. We have the jungle penguin, the Acreon penguin. They are terrible at everything unless underwater. They are graceful swimmers. Some birds are mammals, you wonder if they are just victims, a life of being a blob. They can be very good at reproduction. Teach me the ways to make coffee, Napoleon. My mind has never been larger. So how much free coffee is in the deal? Honestly, I drink about 4 to 12 cups a day, he said friendly and confidently. The cheapest stuff, Sunshine Raisin Meadows, you can have as much as you like. The Aroma coffee? Maybe not. Can I try your best coffee? Aroma 1 and 2, no milk. That coffee has a punch of excellence yet strange lands. Strangest beans. I get it, milk ruins the antioxidants we figured in the future. He's kidding, right? No, we had a longevity thing, country by country already in our habits. No one would say no to drinking more coffee to get less cancer and heart disease, not British people. Black tea works too, almost as good as green, don't bind the antioxidants to the milk protein. Do you think you can sell, live longer, drink luxurious coffee stuff? James. Not bad, James. Well, I am trying to make our customers drink it black anyway. Be honest, right, drink it black, also associated with living years longer. Years? Just what do I not know from your years? More like 1 to 2 years, green tea repairs DNA too, telomeres. It's beans, coffee beans or antioxidants, the power of beans, you see these oak arms? James slapped his biceps, this is mostly made of beans, you know, chickpeas, lentils, vegan stuff. I made sure as long I have worked out, the muscle fiber came from vegetarian sources. Green muscle. Your vegan bodybuilding diet is so fucking funny, said Olivia. Beans. Then he started on a wheezing laugh. He was confident in his old ways, ready to be very ambitious with this structure. Napoleon didn't lift heavy weight, but he could fence thus. Enter coffee and coffee chocolate with a different air. This is Aroma, Napoleon, you know of our legacy? James, Olivia smelled and sipped intently. 5-second silence. Jesus Christ, that might be one of the best things I have ever drunk. So much aroma, so much flavor. The chocolate flavor comes for about a second and it's like something chocolate related I never tried. There is sweetness like plum or vanilla, gentle like sugar was not invented yet. I would be fine with this if there was no sugar. People don't buy the expensive coffee, I can't figure it out. Olivia enjoyed it in silence and he wiggled it like tea. I'm used to this flavor now, Napoleon, Olivia said. Well, it is a bean, James, it's 30% Blue Mountain, the best and most expensive bean in the world, followed by chocolate Black Mountain, Gold Rush beans, something that grows here like a gold mine. I secured the land with a heavy investment. Thankfully I was the highest bidder, he said poshly. Power of beans. Power of beans, Napoleon went for a hillbilly impression. The chocolate they sold with the coffee was like melted chocolate rich for seconds and then nothing. This is our main seller, even if it's expensive, aroma Napoleon. Yeah, this is supposed to be had black, said James. This makes me feel acute and smarter, said Oliva, impossibly deep and impressionable. So it changes flavor what 4 to 5 times, I barely have patience for this. I sense dark and bitter transformations. I guess it could have even more expensive and luxurious punch? More of the same, also very aromatic 10 out of 10 coffee, the other was 9. Yeah, I guess it has distinct transformations, said Olivia. He was pleased and pleasant. I am a bit stuck on how to change my product, unless we're talking about this smoky bourbon coffee. Change the beans, said James, out of 10 changes 1 will be good. To be honest, I'm not a very typical worker, I'm an abstract, improvising idea working worker. I would work the best in science, or constantly improving something like a rocket to space. The half of people who aren't planners are improvising through and adaptive. They do things in random directions, maximizing their energy, spontaneity. Anything with moving arms can do this job, said Napoleon. Interesting opinion. Everyone is spontaneous sometimes. I know a poison that would improve the flavor, Olivia said, suddenly detached and insane. Can you make it non-poisonous? Napoleon. No, the flavor is the poison. Okay, first we take a vacation, am I right? I have English colony Barbados rum, said Napoleon. Last time I was in English Barbados I was drunk for a month, cheap sozzled through. Stupid winds blew me to Point Petra, Harridan, the Flying Axeman. Olivia. Wake up in a bathtub puking tequila and glitter. I heard vampires like drinking your blood if there's rum. James. That's so random. Napoleon. With a linear brain, Olivia was insulted by this. He was however more concerned with laying on the beach and drinking rum. On a beach, next to the hut they tasted coffee. James shared the rough sunglasses he had made out of onyx and a spell and told them how to do Sudoku, 3 pretty difficult pieces he had made, he thought considering he made them himself. They drank coffee and rum and spoke leisurely. Napoleon in many ways didn't seem relaxed, but in his mind he was, focused he did on performance constantly, speech, sell and unite, and now he did almost subconsciously. I got so drunk at one point and maybe mellow I decided to float on sea with a drink floating log, I didn't care wherever I would float. I found a huge marooned island, lost on maps, you can try to leave but there is an infinite amount of alcohol. Bottle and thus another bottle, masters of fencing, marooned. I thought of you a foreman of hell. I have been in many places, when old I will tell I've had a life. How long were you there? There are many places off the maps, spirals reaching the sky. There is a place further up than heaven, on different clouds here. I don't think anyone should feel gray, desolate like losing your grip, in dreams of despair, dark dreams of reality. It's not me that there's wrong with, it's the world. I cannot hold on forever, until fear becomes sedation and pain. James felt now Olivia was very relatable, he knew this world. Weiss laid on top of James' chest small, feeling rich, fascinated and affectionate, she was a fan of James. Are you trying to get me drunk? She had to point out this exception automatically. I have never tried to get someone drunk I think, maybe who I'm trying to get drunk is myself. Then came the rabbits, Spartacus and the golden Napoleon pelt. The rabbits quickly realized they were rabbits and flopped on the beach, all exteriors out, as they do when feeling safe and happy. Spartacus had hints of jealousy of the golden fleece. The golden rabbit is an angora, they don't mind being cut. I made a small house and bed inside for the rabbit, for the bed he loves me. Rabbits need friends, they light up with non-human company, like guinea pigs, could use guinea pigs. How am I supposed to afford another golden rabbit? Do you think the rabbit wants some coffee? James presented a mug. The rabbit slurped and thought it was interesting, strange human beverages, are the humans all like this? A bit dark, could have been less acidic with the medium strength. He looked at Olivia, then went back for more. The rabbit is going back for more, that's good coffee in it, said James. Wow, I need some caffeine thus. I learned this fluffy and conditioning hair spell, that's why I have such perfect hair, said Weiss looking like a crocambouche. Well kept up like that it looks almost like a perfect wig. With pink bubbles and cream soon the rabbits were enjoying the wash. Floof. The royal pelt looked royal as Spartacus had price-winning hair. The rabbit felt like zooming and included the other rabbit. Come here rabbit, said James to the golden fairly large 1x 0.5 meter rabbit. I am also knowledgeable in geography, biology and politics. Weiss. I know geography like the back of my hand. Antananarivo is the source of pineapples and Bunder Seri Begawan the beginning of Bacardi Benders. The most northern capital is Ottawa and southern, cold to thus Wellington. Driest desert is Atacama. Fortunately the price of water doesn't always go up so much with the population living in the desert like lunatics. There are 3 types of deserts. Governor just wants to wed me off, but I think we're powerful enough, more like a regular wedding. I am one of the geniuses of modern cosmopolitan London. How can you be a genius of history?
I love drinking. I love drinking alcohol. It makes me feel alive and I have fun. It gives me what medicine could never do. Makes me feel happy in ways I've always been lost at sea, wandering in grey. Yeah, so maybe I should make an alcohol-free review. This ship of alcohols is has full of flavor. There was Sir Brew Alt, that was a good one. think that's Swedish though. Heineken is not. A Roman Birra. It was called. I said it correctly just 1 hour ago. Aceto. I think that's it. Very tasty.
How can you be a genius of history? There is nothing to write. Rewriting. Winners of history. I don't just do history, said James, going somewhere shaken, insecure. One of the secrets and weapons of hell was the living seed crystal, with time turned into a Trent. Ancient Trent Alucard, while still thicket was a Trent, he could make growth change season and wither bloom in seconds. You had to be clear, Alucard could be literal or philosophical and was about beautiful action, not words. Humanoid tree form, faceless chiseled face, he grew a red beard in the summer that turned deep blue with impatience in autumn, with Dryad's renting room. His defense could not be tested. What do they pay with? Different acorns. I like planting trees, I have the patience to watch them grow. It was crazy. Alucard could turn into a 50 by 50 meter wooden estate in 30 seconds. They used this when adventuring, gathering islands on the sea, and to sleep. I shall not lit a fire. You can lit my leftovers, leaves related to summer on fire, He told them to be balanced with nature, to be sustainable with environments, to return and be one with it. You are not a machine ghost. A 70 times 30 meter ship as well, with rosy flowers and huge thorns where need be. Exceptionally tanky over offensive, Alucard would outlive anyone 2,000 years, and was resistant against everything, even fire. This is not a $2 matchbox. Although the feeling he personally disliked being on fire like being wet. He was intelligent but more mystical and wise, concerned with balance of species to nature, fit well with James. Naturistic intelligence. He had healing wisps whispering peace and hopefully did.
So many days is a good day for drinking a beer, you know? You're doing something else. I haven't get too drunk.
He had healing wisps whispering peace and hopefully didn't get squished.
It's expensive red wine as well. And I love rum. Although I had tried some dark rum, and it's gonna be like nail polish, and it kind of was. It's not the same thing. Let's try.
He had healing wisps whispering peace and hopefully didn't get squished, You're leaking. It's supposed to be like that, echoed his deep, more like hard to speak voice. A hint of humor was noticed afterwards. Folk that would usually like visiting Alucard were sprites, lightly dressed deep blue and light green spirits related and allied to elves. Dryads, again, and druids. Alucard, a squirrel told me it is always safe gathering nuts for winter.
Laying on a beach drinking rum.
He had spots on him for rose bushes and blueberries. Makes me smell nice as well, I make antioxidants against the sun and enzymes against bacteria. You humans eat this to be the healthiest? I wouldn't eat you. A ship's Arizadanet came around the rocks firing. Everyone seemed to have a wooden leg, maybe because the captain did. They won't like this molten giant bombard, they said, but as they fired, Alucard morphed into a Trent form. He launched with his crew, grappling to the side. His strong arms broke the wood around their mast savagely, tilting it into the sea. A pirate thwacked a rum bottle, Havana Club Q, and lit it intelligently on fire on his back. Alucard was deeply startled and pushed his right oak arm into his stomach, then expanded until he was a human mace. The human mace exploded into a cutlass person and the blood extinguished the fire. Alucard fought fiercely, a temper of the tree ants. They got hit like by trees.
The thing as well, I didn't drink alcohol for years, like between like 18 and 23. No, I don't know. I like being sober. It's not healthy. It's really not. But then I come to love the very reasonable. Still, I am.
Alucard fought fiercely, a temper of the tree ants. They got hit like by trees falling over, houses collapsing, unsafe construction sites. They put a giant bombard against Alucard again, but James thought with arrogant fire magic to make it explode inside the barrel. The pirates exploded like vulnerable to explosives. James was cornering Captain, Double Legs. He was a fat pirate with excellent defense, cutlass and black braided beard. He had one wooden leg. Captain Double Legs. James and Double Legs aimed and fired a black powder pistol at the same time. Double Legs had a stronger gun and it hit James sloppily in the shoulder. Skillfully, Double Legs shifted into a more defensively absolute unit, more black, and his piercing thrusts would have gone through someone else's. He had threatening overhead slashes and at his feet. James caught his foot in a rope going upwards with the mast, but he cut it across. James had to really overpower him, and just there's always a more skilled swordsman, he had to take things up a gear. James bellowed, had ORSOF that knocked him back. He lost his cutlass and flipped him about and cut through his pants in a 12-cut strike. He got a worse weapon instead and looked ready to defend his life. Begone ere our baguettes fly. Shiver me Italian whiskey. I can pierce any pirate's cutlass defense. You are in lethal range of my muskets. He raised his cutlass a final time, but James gathered piercing power and railgunned it. The explosion was like something unbelievable alien, and it changed the colors and hue. All right, we surrender. They were Italians from New Florence. Follow me to the cabin. A gold overflowing to the roof, well in just coin, rum and Italian whiskey. Walter cabin. Every pirate who had fit into the room took a glass and sipped. You have a scraggly, dirty quartermaster, he is drunk asleep and yet insulting thus. Insulting a man's scraggly quartermaster is worse than insulting his ship. I see you have loot here from the French, should have banked. Spare us half the rum and whiskey and we'll give you the location of the treasured dead ivory. It's around here somewhere. We shall take the French cheese and coffee, said Napoleon Reblicon. Smells like mimolette. Yeah it is, said James. This is stupid, how'd I steal against people now? Italian accent I have got to make a living. Yeah you can forget stealing from the French now, said James, inspecting a wineglass robust. We're the strongest muscle, I've beaten several dragons and raided Dragon's Nest. Dragon's Nest. The Italians in the room danced superstitiously and spit 3 times. There was spit everywhere. No grave but the sea. Better to shit in the sink than sink in the shit. What? Under the seas no one wears hats. We need diplomacy between Italia France now or there shall be invasione, invasion proclaimed double eggs. The islands were busy making the best coffee, some with the same price of produce, which is just capitalistic insanity, unless people weren't willing to pay. They had scientists and caffeine addicts analyze the perfect coffee. A broad area for research was crossbreeding beans, which James would now update. Cross beans, why not just mix them straight in the coffee, James said. Another insight was any coffee tastes twice as good if you have drunk for 3 to 4 days, you're addicted. The flavor becomes exalting and golden. Let's breed some new flavors with genetics. Cheap and flavored filters he came up with, flavored coffee like with aromas he remembered from the future. He thought of inventing a coffee that tasted like a dessert, just the right coffee flavor and you added sugar and cream. Now what would that be? Something already rich and fat, James decided. James introduced Napoleon to iced coffee or coffee with sugars or sweetness. He promised his people were completely addicted by this. Cold coffee is just dessert flavor orientation, Napoleon said. I feel like I'm mixing cake. We don't have to. It can just be bitter and fat flavors. Anyway, caramel can be combined with chocolate and dark coffee. I thought caramel for aristocrat kids. They might be good customers. Olivia and me are working on a special coffee oat milk frosted to -90 Celsius. We'll cool down the coffee with less, maximum coffee taste. I like my coffee mixed with milks until sweeter. Strawberry raspberry chocolate coffee and chocolate and kiwis fruity coffee. What about ground salted pretzels? Make any shape you'd like, mate. James went water skating. It was a lot like ice skating. You moved the same over the water with pretty expensive, also magical, dwarven devices. When far enough in Les Saints Lagoon he could fish crabs and sea urchins. Sea urchins were always so upset when taken away or beaten, so confident in their defense, crunching with their white-like beaks. There are like lawnmowers against starfish and plants under the sea. Here infestations unbalance the equation. He met a meter-long surface anglerfish, red, white, and green eyes, so ugly like it had its face punched in. It was cool though and let him pick urchins. James enjoyed the heat swimming slowly in the crystal-clear water and saw their holy coral reefs, not damaged yet. Later in the day after Olivia's spicy crab sushi, James went for pirate revolver duels, a gambling western-like game. 2 pirates enter in a downed wooden arena. The one that pulls and shoots his revolver first and hits harder head wins. The bullets are seafoam rubber. James practiced and practiced, had lightning skills. He usually won because of his cat-like reflexes, but people here at Surly Boots Pharmacy Gambling and Accounting didn't have normal reflexes. He confided in the shipwright, heard rumors from the barman and got slapped by a servitor. A week later he had faced up the quickest drawers one after one with 900% interest. It was shorter to aim your pistol to the heart than head, he thought. Despite bullets being rubber, he thought of ideas of different one-shotters that really one-shot. James found himself in a free-for-all. How do you figure this out? It's just like a bunch of nomads fight over a gold pit. Don't be aggressive, fight last. Diplomacy brilliance. Undead rapscallion tentacle face fell down in smoke as he clutched his stomach. James, after practicing duels, had gotten his reflexes down to 15 milliseconds. Bugger, bugger, quadruple wanker, bugger. Congratulations, you beat rapscallion in the house. Take this dwarven hellclast. Face remover. A heavy, long shotgun-looking pirate revolver with mahogany wood and half the metal plated and some corals was given. Still long reload. No need to fight as this blows off their face, just like on the label. Maybe there comes a second sea dog. Fixed shot pattern, well a rectangle, magical elven crystal blue flue powder with magical battery French Dutch. I'll conserve my energy like the dead on a couch. 1 of 15 pieces of 8. Drunk on shots, Dutch captain failed to complete his sentence once, then said, down with arrogant French coffee. And shot a pirate pistol under the table. Let's try this. James in just absolute unit shining black then aimed the hellclast fully reaching his face. Kablam. The clast made a huge blue explosion and the captain laid face smoking feet up in the bar. Hooray, the bar went in and started drinking again. It's the Irish rum that separates us from animals. A pirate twacked a whiskey bottle over his head like lounging. James took the long orange spitz drink and went observing the capybara island, part hot tub, part overgrowing island next to the bar stools. The capybaras loved the hotness and had oranges on their heads. James would drink yet focus on gather information, learning about latest shipwriting and add-ons like the bronze far-reaching new cannon, dismelling crew spells in a bottle, new hammocks technology. Both England and Italia both worked on the biggest 5-cannon vertical row ships that would be sure to destroy anything. They toiled intelligently, spending every buck, careering in shipwriting. Are you sure, Jimmy James lad? Paragallos, the British colony, has never been so illegally tempting weak and rich. Plunder awaits like a rum bottle floated home. James convinced every honest pirate to attack, putting the Paragallos' defense on its heels. Almost as many men. They survived most the pirates and were licking their wounds as French ship of the line Genevieve with 48 guns and French flags turned the corner. They had 2-star shooters as well, Black Dwarven super heavy bombards. The super bombard cut up the docks and base defense. It was just cannon fire that had to be won through. They had to tank shots from the long-range defense towers. They had towers with cannons for about a minute. French pirates came charging from the bottom with a cannon rolled. Red-coated heavy musketeers bayoneted and formed versus pirates with one-shot revolvers. Servants of English pints. They were well-mannered not to hurt too many civilians, used to this game, and went straight for the governmental buildings and governor. A beautiful hourglass brunette Olivia, governor's daughter, said, "Bloody pirates," as they approached British high culture. "She is so rich her freckles are gold." James went, "Look, there's a governor's daughter, don't shoot." She was pushed into the group, struggling thus into James' arms. "I won't be rough, you're safe around my biceps," proclaimed towering James, looking down. Pirates might have ripped jewelry off her neck. "I'm exceedingly cactus jackass Jack." "Shove a cannonball up your cunt, James." "Help me, less thick accented French guy. I am a mercenary and pirate. This is the most dangerous time to be a government's daughter, even more than choosing the coffee room decor." Out came the main military and treasure guards. They were dressed in red and white British colors, some hard leather, some steel cuirass and axes, some blue and white Scottish. On they fought with bombardment of pistols, cannons rolled forwards and caught many people in the stomach. Fierce piracy was met with guarding nationalism, sword fights were long as everyone just blocked. Pirates winning went 2-on-1. They were fencing armorless pirates, except for the Sentinel pirates, having magical and steel armor mix. Our quartermaster Jeremy was making mincemeat and empanadas of the enemy, carrying a new hand cannon, more cannon than hand cannon. He was an elite pirate. James saw the governor in the background, fat and in a green silky suit. James used his teleport powers, short-ranged and low on stamina, to the surprise of the governor. "For the money," James said like an accountant, and plucked the man under his arm like lightweight. "I'll pay you 1,000 quid if you abduct me somewhere safe. Oh dear, we have not protected any new resource. We focused on beautiful growth." "Can you pay 10 times more?" said James, surprisingly negotiable. "A side-switching mercenary? Well, I'm not prepared to pay more than 2,000. I'm not worth it." "Good to have an honest opinion." James went on to his pirates. "I always wanted to have a wig like this," said a thin triangle-jawed pirate, and nicked his hair. "You look beautiful." "Lock him in the captain's room," said the pirate quartermaster, "and rumkeep." "I want to be imprisoned with my father," said the daughter. "Seal them in together, and prevent their impending escape. We don't want to lose any leverage," said James like a real ENTP pirate, like Jack Sparrow is portrayed, thorough and confusing. The intuition makes sense to them like correlated math. Jens had farted so bad the governess' shirt buttons all unbuckled, his suit and garments all split, his hair turned unkempt and greasy. He was speechless. The captain of the guard blocked their way into the treasure vault, which was in a white guard tower. He too had a fancy shirt and a white wig with an opulent rapier. "I am a master fencer, riddle me a man full of holes." Thus they fenced as speedily as the eye can see. James was busy with his light weapon, the stabbing rapier, and thought to grab a sword next time and cut through. "Silly little thing, better freeze it. Why don't you trip over some dicks? Did you know fencing with rapiers is called fencing with dicks? Have a nice trip," he said like he was firing him from a cannon. Oof. Olivia had sealed the deal by picking up a cannonball and throwing it into the stomach of the captain. James thought there was no sound, but it looked like it had been fired from a cannon. Olivia then picked him up with 2 arms, then slapped him with his 2 others until submission. "I give up." The circular keep was gilded with treasure, resources that could be turned into coffee, wine, whiskey, chocolate and cigars, blue Jamaican. "I can stand smoking these if I can have Cuban later," said Olivia. "Please, my beloved, I am supposed to protect the governor's daughter." "Put him into a cannon," said James with an insane eye. In the Coffee Bean Islands there were magical man cannons, Black Dwarven of course, that could shoot someone a quarter across the islands but didn't shoot destructive cannonballs as a resort. The captain got shuffled ass first, only hands and feet sticking out. "French people cannot make coffee, h. He screamed in fear. And almost instantly he was shot onto Chinese waters. The cannon didn't make much sound but left blue light powder in the air. "Quite a mouth on that one," said Olivia. "Yeah, did you hear he was charming the gov daughter?" responded James. Then he went to charm the governor's daughter. James didn't sell the place to France but the Spanish, and when they had settled and they raided everything again, took their treasure vault pretending to be penniless corsairs. Some of the treasure was still being shipped, so they found the treasure line and boarded them. Leaving the treasure ships intact, slow but well armed, and sold them, and then finally made it a new French outpost. Joining them on the raids freely was Pirate Blackbeard. He looked goaty and goated, young and undamaged. He had hints of greatness but his deeds were not yet done. He didn't have a Blackbeard through, everyone called him thus, but he had the widest black mustache going to his ears like knives instead, and black stubble. Enemies seemed to fall before him like rag dolls as he had 1 pistol more and stabbed for them thus. You're too brutal, Blackbeard, so you cannot wrench the world you know. What devious plot did he have, ready to move the territories? He will be known as the deadly slaughter mist who only moved when he had to. The next day the governor's daughter seemed to leave him for her main gig. She had been poor to communicate. They were perfect for each other, just like the rich can be slick. Our fates have been intertwined, but never braided. Damn it, I need someone whose secrets doesn't hurt me. James practiced his teleporting but also saved some mana on the bigger jumps with vials. He found Sabrina concerned and fascinated with the post office on Earth. First I teleported to Schmed and Shekels Banks by accident. Do you want to join me on Nagas and Coves? I have been waiting for an adventure like this, sure, she smiled. He felt really good overstimulated hugging her, but at least it wasn't nervous perverse like you can get from depression. She was endearing and cute, pink death too as always. She had reshaped her horns. James didn't know you could do that with a popular haircut spell, into 1 decimeter straight then slightly curved back horns. Cut 8 times slightly like a garlic baguette. Enter French coffee base. Rebluchon said, are you safe with population and animals? I do expect nothing bad from you, James interjected half confident. If you're a good person you're always in control. I have to say, James, you procured the hottest from the dating show. Fancy, said Sabrina. Fancy, said James. Wow, this tastes so much better than the burned Italian stuff in hell, I don't have to force it down. Like coffee, like a cute habit, but I have never tasted something delicacy. Some go their entire life without delicacy coffee. Here's an idea, James said as a ENTP, an automatic reheating spell with the coffee. We should sell it as a machine maybe. What about a tasteless reheating cube, said Olivia. What about putting the coffee mug on a reheating platform shaped like commercials?
Just stop a switch if I
Get
want
on
to.
it. I think I will go on a treasure hunt and get rid of the siren in the cove. She's eating our crew and transportation. Yes, she keeps eating the mail runners and lighter ships. If you go on Friday I will clear it as working hours. They went through the beach of bodybuilders. There was a wide-shouldered view of, well, everyone looked the same. There were gym bros, female beefy athletes that were exposed to so many egos, views. Like the tropical birds, not to mention those in proximity, they were all dancing, getting no response. They sold pirate protein shakes with rum and pirate protein bars. The boothman fitted in, giving charm and trustworthiness, thus he looked just like the others. They surrounded them. James wondered first why he felt such intimidating energy, but then he realized it was because they were going for Sabrina. How are you doing in this fine weather, ma'am? He was a bulky pirate. He had top 1% strength genetics and fitting endurance because he was so broad, the impression of a boxer too big. Do you want a protein shake? They asked James. James was like, am in a proper state. It has been half a day and I have only eaten 100 grams of protein. He pitched the pitcher from the side and downed 100 grams frantically, gulping like a seagull. Did you know me and the boys are the biggest here? There were secondary short haircut stubble sides boys, considerable like another B-movie. I doubt that. You need to prove it by getting me 100 sea urchins. I'm not stupid, you're only saying that to get rid of me. For some reason, he said this with confidence. You have small calves. He scurried away like someone had insulted his ship. The stubble-side wide-faced degenerate friend didn't say anything. He looked at him with slacks. They entered a skull 11 by 11 meters mouth of Maui cut out over a cove next to Bawana Island. We might see the Weddell seal. Seal the deal with a zealous seal. Of course it's an underwater entrance. They emerged slimy against wandering long-armed jellyfish. On land they walked on meter-long 2 arms and stunned mercilessly with the third. As they came and stunned James, he channeled it with lightning magic, then retorted in a blast that sundered them all, loud like cracking sky. I hear of nasty greater green variants, monstrous jellyfish, laying dormant as a trap, with something like sight. Sabrina hugged James, attracted by the adventure. You are one big muscly deadly conduit. She saw through his brains, through not just his physique, she didn't know it but was maybe as smart, a real clever succubus. There was a catacomb of doors, halls and rooms. But plenty of beautiful colors. There were corals on the walls, fishes of all colors of the rainbow. Those are some big sea urchins. They blocked the exit 1 by 1 meters in a room of varying sizes, purple and black they crawled, worryingly, industrious. If you speed up a camera you see they are concerned like a predator, delicious salty taste of the sea. I can detonate them, said Sabrina knowledgeable. Drink this overload monovial. Succubuses are really good at fire magic. Soon every 1 meter sea urchin detonated like a minefield. Don't detonate my nuts, James said like a squirrel. In the next room were giant clams. Based on your strength you could get the treasure. Watch this. With monstrous strength James opened one just with his arms, shaky arms. They're sapphire and emerald in small rectangles. The next 2 rooms were desolate and empty, then another one with a 10-meter clam. This one wouldn't budge like a goat. I can't get it open. That's one hell of a pinch. James charged blood magic for 30 seconds then. Kebab after a drunk Wednesday strength. He wrenched open the clam half a meter, it sounded like wrought steel. Do you want to get in there? That pearl is opulent. Succubus suction, she said mischievously. The half-meter pearl was sucked. In a room they could silver insects like a flying larva with pipe mouth. Kitchen destroyers. This nasty bug will suck out your mana and stamina. There was a pool of hammerhead sharks, hammerhead in a cross and tail that is a Swiss knife. Called bottle opener sharks. They had to traverse the water. The water was for some scrupulous purpose for the fishmen. They didn't seem to bothered by the party. They swam gliding like ghosts. There was a black, white 5 meters pufferfish that they were anxiously, laser-focused, watching deeply. It was breathing nervously but didn't engage. The other sharks feared it like cowardly, beyond how brave it was perhaps. In an even longer corridor they met thick fishmen with circular saw hands and anglerfish heads. You will fall before the siren. These treasures are to lust you before our den. Don't fight me, I am the supreme slayer Atlatl. We trust in your build, you must be enhanced, normal humans don't go above that muscle level. One of them had balls that seemed to breathe like gills hanging on his face cheeks. Where is the siren anyway? Keep going east. They gave it away with his casualness. A few rooms later, after blubber jellyfish and poisonous shelled snails they met 2 fishmen carrying a treasure chest heavy. We promise we didn't kill any men. Wonder if they did, thought Sabrina as she lit everything on fire. They smoldered and engulfed in flame. Fire tsunami. Great, put the chest in my magically confined bag, I can feel something now through. They fought a giant crab humanoid with crab arms so muscular that they were crippling his heart. They carried from the west. Enter Siren's room. They came upon a huge beautiful crusty ship in a 150 by 150 meter room. It seemed sunken and fit 5 times as many animals, including barnacles. The 25 meters high, 25 by 100 meter ship was gargantuan. I welcome you to Moby Dick, your treasure will gleam as will your intestines. A 4-meter maiden, an attractive pale mermaid-looking siren, looked upon them with a trident. She had a light starfish haircut and large nude breasts. I blocked any attempts for her to get into your mind. I think I'm gonna study magic of the mind, James said conversationally. I am your reckoning siren, your stealing and rupture have attracted me. She blew in her conch but James' mind was barely addled. Bigger fish frontline clothesline, James thacked the siren in the neck and she hit the ship. She hit James fist for fist with her left hand trying to win with her trident, she was strong. She deflected flame wave with her spinning trident from Sabrina which made James charge fire magic. He charged and lightened his surroundings until they centered in him jumping, scientific method C4. James blasted like a star. Everything was surprisingly explosive thus. ARRRRRGH the siren let out a beautiful scream and covered her face. Seared she flooded the room with water with her trident, what was she going to do now? Like a shark she turbo-jetted trying to cut them trident first. It turned hard to see. Darn she got to the succubus. James felt the danger of his weaker friends dying or in danger, like a project you need to micromanage. Sabrine used her strong succubus muscles, fierce like deceit, pulling a flaming cutlass she parried the trident, through she was weaker, they slashed and parried 3 times, the beautiful display was winning through throwing their weapons left and right. The mermaid jetted like giant cannons 5 times and hit the party. James generated super plasma gluon lightning. It was quite difficult but soon caught the siren gasping for air and pain. The lightning lit the surrounding water on fire the entire way, it melted the siren like chocolate butter. Turns out the spell waned, the siren was an old hag with a double chin. The room flushed the water out like a toilet. I feel dead inside, said James, like a old school cheap horror story. Striped black and white snakes, dead animals. I only enjoy half. Chapter, Songs of Isolation. James had a tendency to be a depressed genius through, or stay just above depressed. It had been shocking like the finest, most profound art in the world the first time, as much feeling as one can take with old forgotten promises now spiritual. The past is caught put dire to James McKivery, just leave me be, I'll wait things out. Bit strange maybe how some confidences stick, but to find unyielding confidence, coming to insight in depression is a good idea. Depression haunts intelligent people, a tendency to blame yourself, extra weight, bit senseless guiltiness. The past had haunted him until this, he needed to have it good before it could surface, what he had was not real stability. Like brain damage through an arrow in the head, James cared not but indulge in entertainment and food. It was too hard to take care of yourself, the weight was oppressive, who cared about anything he had to do. Being treated so substandardly in his life, he now had to slowly figure out if he was good enough. I am going to live for the last fun he'll ever have. I'll keep up the work for other people, Napoleon. He didn't feel much right now, to be honest, like a melancholic sitcom, you'd think it feels good not to feel, but it is saddening. He had anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure, some were fleeting. You chase it but don't get it. He felt something from eating and engaging in games, so that's what he did. Exploring like an art connoisseur, sometimes addicted to wrong timings, but he had to keep going. Depression can be hard to recover fully from, to not exist in the gray world, 1 foot in the personal delusion. There is not just antidepressing things but maybe pills increasing learning speed, brain boosters. Many spend their entire life still partly in the dark world with anhedonia, like damage to the brain. It is still a natural phenomenon. The feeling spelled separation anxiety even before someone left, but it was only about so few people. James realized it must be some past trauma before he could remember. The alcohol tasted so good it brought him to tears, like life was no more, the Loire and the fiery Alsace, keep going, another drink, the time was thus, now he felt what he always missed. Maybe others could reason his behavior made a lot of sense, it was excellent wine. Card games meant a lot, they could satisfy him sometimes everything was just a mess inside, like someone who needed help. Sometimes he didn't know what to feel. He questioned if he was fake. Maybe faking 5% doesn't even matter, it's just a conscious function leading somewhere honest anyway 50% of the time. Was he good enough? Was he a drag that just needed to be executed? Yes, I think I am good enough to exist, to live, and he would not question it again. A king in my own mind. Was he a man or mouse? These questions are old and for an insecure teenager surfacing again because of the burning of finite candles. Once he had less of everything he had followed his good sides bravely, flowing on brilliance, positivity, reaching spiritually. This is more easy as you are able, and normal. Was he confident a man, compared to the realest men, surely? A person should know himself so well he needs no consciousness to shake anything off. So easy to build a confidence and stability in the waves of random events that may come, you just need encouragement and not every group animal to be dismissive. Independence builds the character no matter the circumstances. Would people not accept a nerdy thinker? Who was it who didn't he shouldn't have asked? I understand its feelers and their own insecurities who dismiss nerdy thinkers, desperate to make borders. Deep inside himself he had always found a shelter early, like a cocoon of youth, a safe place ultimately untouchable. Even depressed his first time he had an iron confidence in himself to be able to accomplish all his Iron Man goals, unextinguishable, what mortal could ever break this force? It is still motivation like the end of times, like things have to be bad. It was a dance of egoism and materialistic nothing, performance of hubris and deficiency of magnesium that got him depressed again. It's 5 times more clear the week before he got it. A dangerous game he played now, he could lose every card in his hand. But he had always been calm in these serious situations. He had also turned melancholic until every movement and thought was pierced by black retarding ice. Something that would be resistant to treatment better not stay too long in this hopeless stability for the remaining life will gut you until you are left with nothing.
No.
You get one day in the sun. Antidepressants he remembered aren't strong enough on their own. You need to do multiple things like run consistently, add antidepressant coconut water, eat healthy, no saturated fat. Or good enough things would happen that lifted him out. If only that could happen. He didn't completely get out of his first depression in 4 years when he was 15 to 19. How unproductive he was. How stupid, because brilliance flows on positive emotions and confidence. And depression could come back in the future as long as he wanted to be accomplished in the hardest way for him, a perfect citizen in a perfect critique. You have to settle for what you can do, even if the worst. To exist in how you thought you had to be versus even a long allowance of who you actually are. Depression is being unable to play a role other people want. You can see this crux as people try for more and more change than they are able. There was a finite feeling, he didn't care, the pain would stop, the aggravation of life, it would all end, death greets you warm for your hardship. His family in the future wouldn't know. They probably thought he would pop up any day and be sarcastic. Maybe he should think of how first, he needed to search for aliens. He had gained 50 kilograms of fat to his bulky body, oh dear. How does that even happen? One day at a time. You can have the most infinite controlled eating. He ate to live, he really did, but the interesting thing that was he was a gourmand, he picked meal and meal, drink and savored the taste, to him it was the food of the gods for real and true. Chasing the sacred and unhealthy wrong choice bready cheesy flavors of a lasagna or a little bit spicy too, sugar and cream, wine and draft. He wanted gumbo and red wine potato bourguignon, goulash soup and meteor broth. We can see the high energy and muscle makes you crave the food. Comically his mind held onto the taste of goulash soup like the most sensible idea. Like healthy, or self-sustaining. He craved sushi and ordered every item on Indian menus, and many at a time. He got other people with him to eat the menus in these eating challenges. Muscle balloons and fat blobs. 100 sushi pieces was reached. This time didn't shove away friends for odd interests or reject women for degeneracy, despite the world shunning him one intolerant shoulder at a time. When it was really awful he couldn't shake the fact he was agreeable just like them. He was just a nerd, a thinker. There be hamburgers expensive and elevated, Italian pasta dishes not focused on protein. Mashed potatoes like Golden Lakes, baguette with delicacy hard cheeses. First he didn't notice he was getting bigger, it was just angles, a trick of the light, something that didn't count. Unwrapping a cookie, goddammit, it's just a cookie, doesn't count towards my calorie diet. Quote, bodybuilder Rich Piana, sitting hurt his back and walking wasn't just walking, he had been buff his entire life. Oh no, I turned fat in it burp. Just let yourself go, said Arnaud, who knows if this was a helpful mindset, he tripped over his mental legs for sure some way thus. But he was so muscular that he looked very similar, it was just the stomach, a real 16 months beer pregnant gut. Thanes looked like this, and some orcs. He noticed he was slower and it was harder to dodge, but he was stronger, mass moves mass, he was like a ferocious giant slamming down on godly power. Unbelievable, his peers exclaimed, he moved so well, seamlessly, dangerously. He picked up his old exercising and it was still doable, just like you can get used to carrying a heavy backpack, just tough in the beginning. Some 1 repetitions records were recorded, top 1% genetics makes for an interesting period being fat. The biggest part of being fat is the extroverted acting, the opinions of others and sight. It was a test, now he had to prove himself to others all the time, he was no longer just fine the way he was and he had to tank the most elaborate speaking of peers, or entitled assholery. Feelings of being okay met by piercing egoist elitism in the vanity wavelength. It's great talking to other fat people, it's like a secret society, everything is with less presumption. And if you were wondering how dating is going to go now, there's your answer, other fat people. A little bit his body seemed to allow for more thought, but especially feelings, and patience with the feelings of others. His voice was stronger and different, he had genius spare energy now because he was so high energy before. Some ideas clicked genius as he said them but he didn't always figure out why. James had explored exercising while being fat, like a sumo wrestler. He still went for long runs, arms were no problem gymming while he sat down, he was strong now for the first time to contest even Olivia, which was a source of great pride actually. He had worked hard on his speed technique now and could almost phase out of reality and sight from others, although it felt like he was carrying something unstable. He tried running a marathon again, and he could do it. It was intensity training this time, only the last hour was tough. He chose to walk 3 minutes every hour, because that's how long it takes for the heart to recover from this strenuous exercising. He loved food, and he had an appetite that was 200% of his size. What he was to do in the future now was to choose the time to do it sparingly. Is being fat okay? That's a good question for a time like depression. Ouch. Do you tolerate fat? He had always enjoyed talking to thick, girthy people in the gym, and now maybe he would be rewarded for his tolerance. He had indeed never moralized fat in a spiteful way, being a gym bro. Just encouraging the journey, it's just mass. James thought it was as a measurement of size or shape, philosophically very fine, but it had objectively some points minus for health that could not be argued away. Something he would consider for himself now, can't shake the cholesterol problems, cancer, blood sugar and blood pressure unless vegan. Getting fat after 40 is so bad against the most common 15 killers that doctors think it's one of the worst things you can do. You live 4 to 8 years less on average. Anything unhealthy needs to be stopped before it is time. Last he noticed gaining 50 kilograms of fat mostly had changed his voice, more assertive and convincing, grand and glorious. He sounded egregious and could push his voice deep and operatic. That must be what those opera singers were looking for. He didn't care he was going to die fat, no consequence. Maybe there's a pointed rapier from a fancy swordsman? Disaster. New Paris colony is being prosecuted by Abraham the Testicle Torsion Wizard. He is here to settle the times. Deep blue and white magical ship echoed with fire and thunder, and they drew close. They had a ship of the line with 48 guns and 2 Ottoman bombards, lightning cracked the sky, triple cannons that fire a volley every time an allied pirate dies. That's a proper ship. It's no Dutch bark, carrying goods and getting broadsided. This was no half-hearted invasion, they were gonna wipe their ass with their flag and take a shit on their lawn. They drew near with their own ships, but Abraham sealed their cannons with blue sticky fudge like magic. I can shoot cannonballs through my ass, best in my class, said Yensid quietly but confidently. They loaded up Yensid from behind, he bent over and started shooting cannonballs like railguns. They crushed the enemy ship and would be good enough in the bombardment of the broadsides. Teleport me over, James was feeling pissed. Napoleon teleported a group over before they could broadside. James was taking out the unfairness of life by taking his enemy Spanish out. Poor souls, as long as he felt spite, James reached new records of violence. He fought excellently but emotional. If you want my mind, you're going to have to fucking kill me. Inspired by the barbarians, he did a boxing whirlwind. Anyone who got hit flew off the ship. Abraham will show you where your new testicles are. Look at this testicle torsion amateur, I will show you how to outclass thus, Yensid said quietly to James. Testicle torsion, Abraham cast upon Yensid. Mackensize butthole removal, Yensid said echoing. The torsion stopped through its counter. No, not my ass. I can't feel a thing. Please, I need to go to the bathroom already. I think I'm going to turn into a balloon while eating tacos. Starts inflating. I cast. No beard thus, and an operable brain tumor. Oh god, no, stop, please. He's begging me to stop, said Yensid like a superhero. I cast stanky leg, silly walks. Broken walking stick. You're going too far as a wizard. He tried to curse him back. I curse you, to be always incoherent while talking to women. Where I come from, wizards cast, your Wi-Fi, connected, no internet, said James. I cast, a minute of constipation. This is too much, I'm so uncomfortable. I cast, large-handed square prostate exam. I curse you with, female mustache. Every day you will remove it and every day it will grow back. I cast, minute of savagery. Abraham started biting nearby pirates in the shoulder. Sabrina addled his mind, weakening him for a combo. Unholy horizon sky uppercut. You could hear him getting hit by a punch, but then he was instantly gone, flying 200 meters per second, who knows where or when he would land. Up to the Caribbean maybe. Now it was up to beat the rest of the crew. James took a breath as he dived through the floor, beating up every specialized cannoneer. Sumo slap and sumo glider. He defied physics. Sabrina was playing with firefighting many expert pirates. She exerted expanding inferno waves, summoned fire hydras and critically headshot with fireballs. Pirates that tried to resist magic, she ran away to another deck, leaving inferno trails in her wake. One pirate was a half mage, but she got into his mind and completely blacked him out like a psychologist about maybe working theory. Yensid jumped and ground pounded, his ass crunch being stronger than the material, and went through 3 levels. Help us, we're Chinese prisoners by the unholy torsion wizard. We will pay you, let us out, a desperate voice said behind bars. Let us in, let us out. Behind Yensid, a cutlass pirate swung a ball and chain. Yensid used his ass like a flashlight, blinding the enemy, then after charging power, jumped and flatulence manifest in his face. Freezing him through freezing his brain, then with a practiced swift karate heel kick, kicked his head off. A half-breed werewolf mage was indeed part of the tough crew, and he exited the treasure vault. Yensid met Ice Beam on Fire Wave, they spewed and fought, the beam was going back and forth. Inspired by James' arm wrestling, Yensid put balls and larger balls into his ice beam, overwhelming the weremage and freezing his arms. Concentrated slushy blizzard. Yensid made a 1 by 1 meter cube frozen as the ice comet dwarf star, and the mage fell over as an ice cube with legs. Help UUUUSSSSSS. Don't worry, no physical lock is safe from Yensid. Yensid put his buttocks on the prison door with the pressure, opened it like a cork. Somehow it made a cork sound. They inspected the treasure vault. There was a desk for the captain, maybe, but there were piles of gold, candles and gold cups to the roof. It looked like the most secret, expensive room in the Western Sea. Who are you? Said James to the Asians. Have you never seen a prisoner? Shoot them across the Coffee Bean Island. Indeed, they would be shot into Chinese waters. Who knew if it would be helpful? I'm going to clear my head with some traveling, I think, said Yensid. I can take this attack to New Paris headquarters. He put on his magical swim feet that made him stand on water, then he crouched 90 degrees and farted like a motorboat, skimming a purple fish across the sea. James was feeling as ambitious as only a psychomotor genius can, stimuli sensitive neuromuscular system among other things. Like zealous energy breaching limits. Napoleon, I want to uptake making beer and sell. I think I know how to do it already. For the rowdies, those that open their fridge for no reason and those that can't find their keys. We'll see how it goes with a small month's investment. James thought to really making something unique, not cheap, and something he would drink himself. The taste of beer is fine, but he would like something that completely knocks you out with flavor, like a luxury liver punch, something 10 out of 10. James read ancient text from drunk monks and illuminating coffee bean Caribbean delicacies. There were stories of gourmand and studies of wizards, not a library but scrolls for ancient recognition and purpose. Yeast consumes the sugar from the broken starch, wanted byproducts. The combination of hops, barley and yeast makes the flavor different. Price, duration and temperature, percent and black gull. James decided he wanted to make 1 knockout beer, 1 lemonade or chocolate beer, 1 Christmas beer. James went shopping for every yeast, hops and barley, as expensive as he could dare, while still being a deal. He crunched words with surly straw hop sellers and pinched almost secrets from red-faced brewers. They didn't know what he was going to do. Wow, this beer is delicious, he said to the brewer. He bought 10 of the best contemporary beers and synthesized what made them thus. His palate could separate every ingredient and sensation. He learned from legendary monk biologist Ulrich Aron Ursel to brew honey wine and champagne. He was fat, sassy and invented the monk's haircut. He took golden gull and alcohol found on different planes and experimented on way too hot temperatures like with Italian coffee, direct and make room with the burntness. Dwarves were hard getting anything out of except how the toe of Satan hops grew without sunlight. One threatened him Scottish over kangaroo steak. James was unhappy with the first knockout beer. It tasted like brass, not gold. Let's change half the barley into Shetland Golden Maine. This one tasted more pleasant brass, almost non-beer like. He could pretend this was the best beer. Scottish Wizard's bloodleach yeast was substituted. Fine beer it made. Gulp it was until 3 days. Another batch he tried blasting the grains with spells spicy and blast chilling with yeast that made a different weaker alcohol. Chateau Vert Hospice he drunk, and it knocked him out, like making him smarter and wiser. Knockout, a suggestive kiss. Like clouds and whipped cream. Time to take another pint. The price was 2.5 quid to make, about 2 times more expensive than normal alcohol. The student is out of the making laws district, said Napoleon. I have before you beer, said disciple, drink golden. This is going to sell James. Sell it for 3 quid. Call it James Knockout. What's the percentage? 1.7%. This might be a problem. Let's hope people get drunk enough. You can drink more. This made with Chateau Vert Hospice. Chapter. Hungover. James tried adding cocoa powder and half-brown sugar into his leech unsuccessful beer. It had paved the red-faced way. Had to taste a bit chalky and flat. More insane, James thought to add ground fat hen gourmand coffee beans in. A diabolical sinful mix. 8.5 out of 10. James always got drunk on Christmas beer, or even higher percentage German bock beer during thus. Prost, you can't drink many. He infused Hell's habanero hops with pressure cooking and just barley he knew would work from other beer. Instant success. James Chapter 3 Delicacy beers him, maybe I should sell them 3 by 3. Things would go prosperous for James Napoleon Caffeinated Industries. They made bigger batches counting the dollar and took out a large margin with the delicacy beer. They competed with English super solid pints, dwarves drinking dark dwarf stuff. Dwarf Guinness was a trustworthy staple. French mannerless combat masters, who were allergic to grapevines, made unaccessible wine, and Chinese Maiju beer and Shaoxing wine. A drunk spy managed to remember. Napoleon, Chinese Maodai Baiju Industries just moved their delicious storage uncompartmentalized. Even the new cherry soda cider. I know where, I have a credible source. You can always trust dishonest people to be dishonest. Wizard Yensid, Napoleon, James and 10 honest pirates edged across the dark docks. The darkness told them dark insanity not to trust, like fear over futility. It smelled like dirt and cement too. In here, the spy mentioned a guard over documents and swindle room. I will take him out silently. They came to a door with a grate. They saw the guard neck. Yensid jumped and sucked his ass to the door. With an incredible suction he stuck the guard to the grate. AAAARG, oh my god. The guard started screaming. Eventually Yensid started screaming too. Crunch. Yensid had broken the neck of the guard. Unchivalrous, they snuck to the strong lager where opened with giant doors stood the Chinese inventory, shelf after shelf. Take this anti-poison scaly potato cactus. We have as many as you need. If you drink too much I can suck the alcohol out of your blood and turn into blood pearl dust. They opened bottle, can and leg, armed with capsule opener and cork machine. This is delicious, said James, drinking cherry and blackcurrant cider. He felt modernly Asian. I don't know how they drink the wine tonic, said Napoleon. Brit, Belfast isn't that bad, he felt insulted. It's terrible alcohol though. 5 hours later. They sat on rough equipment in a circle drinking the last wine bottles, straight from the bottle. With Jensen dissolving their alcohol they had drunk, the entire inventory. Kanon Riesling, very interesting. Finally I can afford every recommended delicacy wine, they were right. To piracy. Pilfer and borrow forever. May the best country thus win the islands. To the Chinese they left a card from Tea and Coffee Industries Ming Bakken. Thanks for the inventory, it was delicious. Napoleon and James felt just as good, productive returning. We need to make a commercial. We can't film anything in 1001. What filming with, about a potato? That'll work. Do you think we should change name to Underbite Assertiveness Industries? Strategic hip replacement. Chapter The Last Yodeling of Fate. Darn, that's the banker Herr Shekel that's going to sponsor British tea and coffee heroes? Not all heroes wear capes, some wear lederhosen, said Napoleon. Despite having a cigarette in his mouth he was yodeling like hypnotizing. He picked up speed impossible as his bowler hat shined from greed. Be careful, they say he's so greedy he can transform into a dragon. After applause hysteric the INTP, showing their most intolerant side yet still auxiliary, edged over to Napoleon. I see you, Napoleon, you don't like that I have been sponsoring British market dominating? The corporations will be German. In truth, he knew he was unbeatable pretty much before gloating. You can't beat British caffeine addiction with German engineering. I'm going to show you how to eat your bowler hat. I will surge quarterly prospecting with British Expo. Shekel is going to fart confetti so tomorrow we die alive, James. That curls my toes. No, I'm not. Napoleon Industries ended up brewing wine too, and James had room in his brain for this without even creating a break. Vineyards they had bought from Shooting Count in a Culverin had Pinot Noir, one of the best wine grapes, they mixed with their own. James realizes any fruit can be made into wine, can mix in concentrations of other fruit. The ENTP realizes the value of an idea or the future the best it feels like intuitive talent. It's just some acidic sugar water for yeast to grow in. Yeast will expand, but air in causes stale oxidized wine. Degas the wine, clarify with white night clay. Once again, the best soil, yeast, grapes and sugar and the combination of thus makes the best wine. Crushing the fruit yourself makes for better taste than crushing fruit yourself for juice. He would spend to hope rich people would. He knew some people favorably drink cheaper wine by the cent different. Counting the dollar over noticing the taste. James tried watermelon wine, blueberry and strawberry blueberry lime. Let's try brown sugar, sucrose boiled into fructose and glucose and even honey, Red Star Montrachet or champagne yeast. He had to try apple and mango wine. Everyone knows what their food is worth at a restaurant, but drinking the audaciously expensive wine glass. No idea, this is how modern high-class restaurant profit is made. Inspired James would sell his blueberry and mango wine as something dandy and exclusive, take out a confusing margin. He sweetened his blueberry wine, it has a lot of flavor. He knew the best-selling wine here tasted like 50% juice. The sourest watermelon wine he thought to switch honey as the sugar the yeast ate, it made sense. And when tasting he could also taste the sensibleness, but other things had happened too, like unwanted guests coming to drink your wine. James were thinking intelligently, possibly, backwards. Wow, if I get the cheapest hops I have, wrong bittermint barley and champagne yeast I can make piss beer. He made a small batch insanely pretty much and summoned Arnaud with a telephone-like personal pinch of blue cannon powder. Also for tasty testing. Wow, this tastes like piss. I'd drink this. Arnaud. I would have cried gourmand wine tears. Rye tears. James was working, thinking about making a new stronger beer. James real knockout. Napoleon enters. Here's a bonus made for making our quarterly prospecting go up 20%. It's a proper key? It's a pocket dimension. For your wine, I planted a giant nutritious 80% protein mushroom. I was going to buy a key into the dimension of sleek feminine, huge-breasted women. They're all interested in you and will buy you a drink, but they are all half monsters of different animals. Medusa farts turns people to stone as well. James opened and saw a huge, magical garden. Like a greenhouse it was stuck to the ceiling with Pinot Noir grapevines, watermelons vertical on stalks growing or horizontal. A pocket sun in the pocket paradise was a little bit away from everything in the middle, yellow and black carrots, black garlic, wizard's garlic, it was strong like a gnome biting your tongue. The place was circular in glass with a waterfall, nipple-pinching pink crabs and a 20-meter cliff, circulating with quail birds and eggs. Golden beet bushes, lemons, sour grapes, healthiest algae, inconsiderably more choking ivy, pomegranates, purple pineapple, whiskey on a faucet. Many different kinds of bananas grew, some healthier, some made for gumbo, some grew like a model's hair on the side over a sideways palm. It's sous vegan, he said to the white mushroom. Around the waterfall there was a giant lily pad water garden. You could have a Swedish fika and cookie stall sitting on white marble chairs, designer table on the at least 1 meter lily pads. He invited Arnaud, Napoleon, Sabrina thus. I welcome you to Lily Floren's. The waterfall could be heard rumbling between them. I have before you Swedish vacuum cleaners, they're like princess cake rolled like cigars, delicacy shop explained. Chocolate balls with coffee flavor and lemon liquor, raw food balls, Swedish mead and some Italian whiskey I hamster bagged earlier. The vacuum cleaners were weird to the touch and spoke of sugar and things too sweet and less royalty, like a cough of syrup. The Walter cabin was rectangular with the bottom corners being more narrow. Sabrina walked clumsily like she would set things on fire, and Arnaud tested too, intentionally. This should hold for your thickest actions, Arnaud. What do you mean? He said, confused. Look at that cute red flower, said Sabrina. I've been working on being a witch, making cauldron tea and fire-infused progress. Maybe hell can teach me for free if I pretend to work there. Abusing the state of free education, there's a technique to that, said Arnaud. Finally something I'm competent in. I graduated in practical tools, benefits 3 times. It took 2 months. It was 5, James said, excited. I have also been trying to pull all the purple-green plant hybrids or monsters, the vegan golems you could say, out of the earth. Maybe you should train to become an albatross. That sounds like a good idea, said Arnaud. Sabrina used a lily pad to climb the waterfall with magic, then hunted quail. She ate them with feathers and everything. They say what you drink is of essence in a Swedish fika. Let's drink whiskey then. Aye. This Swedish fika is very good. James thought to install some rabbits, 1 every 2 square meters, to extend his dimension concavely. They were tolerating each other's population like humans. They were golden in the paradise, peaceful and sentinels of nature's balance. He had installed a butter seal from winning its surly boots thus, and it had a baby seal. These seals are fine with humans, biting back as predators if necessary, bouncing through and on. The baby seal was gray and white, curious like a fat cat, thus mother was concerned with what the unknown could do. James pushed the limits, feeding and petting, showing them to the rabbits. James picked up some psychic, being up during the night reading as a genius night owl. Someone is ruining my precious stuff like hurting my loved ones. There was spies and pirates opening the vault of 1,000 doors into Napoleon capitalistic secrets. James in a sexy bathrobe uses martial arts and ass-kicking, they're getting rounded up like turtles beaching in a small zoo. Don't beat me up, man. You're already dead, he pointed a finger. I'll spill the beans, aristocrat Fitzgerald has taken an interest in you and wants you gone. He's going to beat me up more than you if he finds out we failed. He has conquered every enemy and embarrassed them like a torturer flays skin. You're next, and he will have a plan and secrets you won't beat. Thanks for the cowardly heads up, you'll eat my weakest attack. James slapped him in the face, he went spinning, knocked out 4 times before hitting the ground. James had begun to find a cure for burnout, mixturing with potions. I must just find my stride. There is such potential in what increases attention span, what increases energy must cure burnout, mitochondria cells manufacturing. He tested them on Pirate Turpentine Thomas, who had no sense when to stop. You're not a man productive unless you push over your limits. He went through and mixed every brain booster, it cured him of attention difficulties and bipolarity instead. He came up with a booster that made you not feel fatigue thus. James was browsing wares in Pirate Port, Rodden sneering Slug Henry. It's time for you to get a proper giant 2-handed sword like a German mercenary, a Flamberge or Zweihander, said Arnaud. This is too heavy. Technically it's medium weight, people keep their distance, as long as you swing anyway. Magically get a shorter grip. There was a winged Flamberge, gemmed teal and artsy golden circles dotted amongst feathers and uneven detail. It was almost 2 meters. You will see that it speeds up smooth, hitting several targets, and after killing, one of my best swords truly, it glows blue and will block magical projectiles if you hit the blade. The other one you could look at is Ripsaw. There are the penniless corsairs, no doubt. Flying the black flag. Dollars and cents. There was a pirate with a wide face and tired eyes, sulking about his better times. He seemed a chapter behind, like too fat and too unchivalrous. Do you want to join the crew? What are you considering? What territories are you up to? His pals seemed focused on their creed, their status intolerant. You seem to be chilling, good man. There is plunder on tactical enemies for mutual savagery. If you want to reconcile like a pirate, you need to drink like a pirate. Here's a stamp, Honest Jimmy's Pirate Bar Crawl. Shoot a pistol in the air to agree. Kablam. James thought to pick Sabrina, Arnaud, and maybe Olivia on this. 11 destinations, Sigmund's near lethal martini, said Arnaud, like frightened, yet nervously ready. It's time to become penniless thus, and penniless. I don't know if I can do this, said Sabrina, concerned in her emotional world like not a contender. I love your company. We love your company, said Arnaud, starting a second after James. They made it to the Penniless Collective, Islands, where they met Cuban-speaking gentlemen in a bar made of bamboo and hay. Can I please have one of your off-the-menu drinks, mango rum cayenne strawberry? It's on the menu thus, this should be a cocktail anywhere, you wait and see. It's sweet but there's alcohol like a swing. Makes more sense than Canadian Caesar drink. It has vodka, clamato, hot sauce and Worcestershire sauce. I can pronounce that, Worcestershire. It's just Worcester actually, like Leicester is just lay CHTER. You can learn to say many things, languages with exceptions. Arnaud didn't believe James very much at first. They should just have the pronunciation on the bottle, they got the whole world saying Worcestershire. There's Welsh City Clanbirepith Wingeth Gagareth Windrabeth Linticilia go go go, said English James thus. Who needs to pronounce anything like how they spell, said Sabrina. I am lightweight thus, I'm shaky. Rum makes me happy. You are muscular like a gym enthusiast. Muscle is not fat. You seem concerned with things out of place, I shall sign your card of bars of bars. The second drink already spelled trouble. Are you kidding, it's Canadian Caesar? The party felt like fate stabbing too soon, improper. I don't want clam and tomato juice. Don't worry, it makes perfect sense, said the Canadian French barman, just try it. They downed the drink and thought about the ingredients like grenades. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, said Arnaud. I think I'm gonna throw up, said James. You're gonna throw up, EH, said the barkeep. This was a strike belligerent and dangerous, broken, omniscient curse. My body is telling me to stop here, there's the world spinning like I have no handle in safety, said Sabrina. You are very good at describing like inner world of intuition and feeling, I believe you quicker thus than you put effort. That's 2 bars out of 11. This will be more than just bar crawling. This is going to test us as men and Sabrina's huge eyebrows. I had an idea to go to every major pub in London, one at a time. They went to a fancy black and white place like Futuristic or Cosmopolitan. It was a club for the high-class pirates, like the capitalists. They seemed to be treated great, like high class, missing some things and expecting you to only be cryptic, not being especially impressionable or intelligent. Mentioning how things are spiffy. The man had the greatest mustache, truly fashionable, 2 black giant stripes perfectly curved upwards, expensive suit, short oily haircut. We have a minimalistic corn barbecue, he said like effortlessly. I'll take a round of greasy animals, said James. They had to each imbibe the near-lethal martini, which was dry like paper but flavorful. Thus refreshing, a little bit fruity like it was a new kind of fruit. I've had worse. It was a double. Time to toughen up, said Sabrina. My throat dried up like dry cleaning service. I can see you gentlemen are in the honest Jimmy's parlor. I get people now and then, enough for me to forget about it, to unadapt despite making a mental note. Some things we wait for only outside our reach. You are wise, Mr. 3 Grogs Down, we must be wise and mature with what life makes us waiting. We wait and wait, the lonely waits, the victim waits for a good life, the patient get revenge. We wait for friends and crushes, ever forgetting the merriest, populated bunch or the lonely. Normal married people, their easy problems and their happiness make me sick, said Arnaud. Why should they be happy? I'm not sure what to make of this, said James. There was a workers' bar, but there were no benefits in sight, it smelled like piss, brought down and colored of boring landscapes. The office blue-collared sucker punch. The office blue-collared sucker punch? Yes, you punch the collar, not the other way around. You explain that every time, don't you? I don't see the problem. It was an overweight witch looking at least in the face audacious barmaid. She was rather rectangular despite being a hut. The problem is the name, you shouldn't have to do extra. What if the charm is explaining, like a name where you tell a story? There was an Irish coffee and a fat, whipped cream tasting cider. They stood uniquely silent, hands on drinks. This whiskey is terrible, said thus James. Shut up, said Arnaud. I'm afraid there won't be any red wine, I have memorized each alcohol I have drunk. Why did you become a penniless corsair? How lucrative are these guys? I was blown here by English winds, I was used to being an English cook, God our food is awful compared to French, Italian, Spanish cuisine. Oh look, these 4 countries are all sewn together. Somehow we have carved out a fine dining niche. I still love the English pea and meat pie. A pie is hard to make, can't be dry, needs meaty yet refined flavors, it needs to be balanced like falling apart. You need experience, you need taste buds, you need to fail. You need to be a hard-working family feeder. You need to have tasted a good pie, meaning superior, said Sabrina, always having something to add. I was part of a vegan conspiracy entering a pie competition, knowing that we would clap the competition and win. You can't do that, that's disrespectful. Why do people say this? Vegan pies are really good actually, said Sabrina, light and the crust tasting more like oatmeal. Who knows where Arnaud was, intoxicated. He was surprised by people and amazed how people in society worked. This should have been the stopping block for him. Sabrina was still elegant, James was crunching numbers hard. The next one on the list says, ominous draft. I'm fine with drinking this, said Arnaud. He wasn't. Westernized like Noodle Bacon Gulch, they came into dry land. Leave your weapons with the coat hanging, said a surly person. If you seen him, you play him. There was murderous intent and white jeans cowboy pirates. It seemed like no one actually left all their weapons at the entrance. I'm going to blow off your head if you keep being sour, guess from 1 to 10 how much I'm going to miss. I feel like I need to show off my baguette, alpha conviction. Exercise mercy and patience Arnaud, claim a monster or a beast. Outside were pirates fencing to death instead of in a Mexican standoff. Why do they call it ominous draft? Arnaud said this was the perfect wrong thing to say. James wondered why people couldn't just keep it normalized. The barman, who was a white mustache goatee, didn't answer. Maybe we need to drink it, to figure it out thus. A man drinks the ominous draft and does not question it. He was charming and sweet in his voice, he told you stories of being a man and made you think to be one. Men, even intelligent contemporary men need to go in and out being a proper man to feel good enough. Filling stereotypes created maybe for no reason. Intellectually you could go into being a man, just the positives, like working on your better version, to be tougher, to be what a man should be thus. Even gay men have the sternest manliness perhaps like secret between men. Arnaud could fill this bar being a Western man, but it was exhausting for long, he didn't just whip it out. The planner society keepers, no matter which personality theory you exert, have all these. Ways of proper filling in physical force and work, in socializing, in being productive. They base their value on how they do on a good day, at their best. 10 out of 10 health is an easy solution thus. James kept looking at Arnaud, based on personality types, the impatience, the exhaustion, the audaciousness in his culture. 3, 2, and 1 gentleman. They swept it charmingly, like a group decided not to think. They coughed all 3 of them like in different directions. Man, that is dry. I feel unsure of every thought. I feel like I've been medicated by a butcher. When will this pass? Soon enough, said the barman. Compassionate like a rock, merciful like an executioner. The next drink was a Harvey Wallbanger, orange juice and vodka, but with propane. There seemed to be a villainous place, there were literally villains, green and black graffiti, almost black club lightning. A demon, 200 kilograms and able to talk about nothing chivalrous, normal were fighting an orc, the orc facing him up like a tiger. In one unforgettable move he pushed him out the window. What can I get ye sour gents? We're bar crawling, the bar crawl. What makes you think I will help you on Jimmy's hither or thither? Because we're bar crawling, I don't expect us to have any resistance buying the drinks. What makes you think it will be easy? He sneered the words. I am a slayer of every foe and harbinger of fire, our succubus is straight from hell and can trick everyone here. I imagine wrecking havoc is actually unwanted by my prowess. Well, there is a reasonable amount for every brawl, fine, I'll give you the coughing propane remedy. They grabbed 3 orange drinks with happy orange slices. Oh, it's sweetened with something, said Arnaud. Maybe propane is sweet, said James. Arnaud choked on his propane. If there's something I'm going to chat about, if there's something I want to chat about, said the barman, it's made from a special dark wizard propane, fed to their trolls and gardeners. Their followers are weak and shake in nervousness. It's very gassy and will make your stomach twist. Lit your farts on fire is recommended, smells like cumin. There is no propane except that farts we light on fire, said James wisely. He gave them a dark red dwarven lighter that said, one day sober, one day evil. All animals think farts and falling over is funny. Getting hurt is universally funny, they feel irony. Have you seen penguins falling over the ice? We know seagulls and parrots laugh. Parrots laugh at you, Arnaud, I could never imagine, said Sabrina. I had a parrot that was offensive against the French, I had to throw him out. I think a water buffalo would more laugh on the inside. They can submerge for up to 5 minutes, just like me. Maybe you are related to bison. They went to a Mexican restaurant per bar Enrique's enclosure, it was really elevated on a cliff, with a garden. You are not one of those rowdy penniless problems, said Enrique, he was taking orders in a brown apron, short hair like a helmet and mustache heavy goatee. An enchilada was thrown over them 1 meter and hit a servitor. She was weak to this kind of projectile and power, in being upset she got weakened. I'm a pirate as far as I'm a mercenary, I keep the French vineyards clean. Just be proud over being a pirate, said Arnaud. I drink alcohol spice like a desert. We have a special today where you have the big 4 commercial Mexican food, empanada, enchilada, burrito, quesadilla. For being upset about the spirited and drunk pirates being aggressive too considerably, he seemed fine with them being pirates. I have heard Swedish people eat tacos every Friday, but they are chained to the cheap seller Santa Maria. The burrito will not have cheese, stop asking, this is why we have the quesadilla. I want my quesadilla with green pesto and no meat please, can I double my order? We think in this way, towering spice connoisseur. We also had a fancy Mexican legend, Raul Cruz come over thus, not just a legend in the Coffee Bean Islands. He thought to deep fry grasshoppers taco and cover them in gold. It is flimsy, thin gold doesn't cost more than Pico de Gallo family platter with churros. It will be earthy, I will try this, if possibly earthier then maybe you need to add turmeric. We will need to mix the turmeric with something like cinnamon then. I will eat the grasshoppers even if they are terrible, says Arnaud. That doesn't make any sense, Sabrina thought. I want a large Pico de Gallo, said James correctly, being pretty much a parrot behind the ears, more auditive than visual, and a churro plate. We deep fry the churros with lemons and cilantro, a deep frying fried technique that works on churros. If you gentlemen like spice and culinary mixes between cosmopolitan and tradition, I recommend the chicken mole. I will eat like a beast in hell, Sabrina said sadly. I don't see the problem, said Arnaud, hitting on her technically as he was jealous of every woman eventually. In Italia they are like, it must taste perfect but you must change nothing, James said a bit mocking. This is not the way culinary. The French palate and Italian are the most sensitive, even to spice. What do you say, restaurant owner? We, he said. We will also order as drinks, Aritos margaritas like watermelon agua fresca, that's why we're here. The man didn't flinch. They had a coat hanger to the roof with fashionable giant sombreros, starred with corn tortillas, half wizard. Considering they were going to drink, this fitted perfectly. They also ordered the dirty taco, which was contemporary greasy pork or halloumi with pickled red onion, crumbly peanuts and differently flavored dough-covered corn. When Enrique came back they asked him, is there a place for the wheat tortilla? Is there only traditional corn tortillas? The wheat tortilla is brilliant, great, we serve both. What about even different flour tortillas, buckwheat, teff, quinoa, oatmeal? You have a fat mind, Pirate James. Obviously oatmeal should work with different flavors, like a pancake taco. They ate like it was a food challenge. James was burning through food like a giant, bottomless. The others analyzed him and picked up his behavior, trying to feel like an oven. They had a huge pint of margarita and enjoyed another kind of sugar, Weber agave, fermented into alcohol. This is a lot, said Arnaud, analyzing as audaciously as he is logical. Square sometimes, sometimes round. I feel heavy like a boat that will not adjust to the sea is over the sky and falling over me as I try to wish it away. Sabrina was the one pushing the furthest, her no-fat body completely lost. She was joking and thought everything was funny, pretending she was content drinking wine. I love Mexican food, she said, I could eat this every day. If you are content, you can have a shot of tequila, made from a more difficult agave plant that grows here, might be from the agave family. On the house, thus we celebrate. There were many pirates, drinking margaritas and watermelon heat soakers. What are you celebrating, they said, teeth and toes curled like goblins. James just said, I'm becoming a penniless pirate, going out of business. Very well then, there were not many right answers to these questions, yet easily unbothered. There is a 1-meter empanada we make, some parts filled with hamburgers, chicken, said the servitor. Perfectly cooked, we are used to making giant foods. They were drunk, but they decided on this decision wisely. I want a 1-meter taco, said Arnaud, being assessed in irrationality. That would be a mess, said Sabrina, being concerned with being proper after being compromising. For her there was gray instead of black and white ways of doing things, but she had to point things out when they were improper. Like an endless correction without deeper thinking. There was a giant empanada like a ravioli slammed on the table like a deer, there were funny edges that looked flimsy. They had a feast, James knew things would go down eventually, focusing on his hunger, on the flavor like it would stop. Swedish blue-collared bar emerged after being shipped like rum through merchant waters, there was a passage through a jungle island where they loomed, skimming like alligators, worrying about alligators. Thick the air was with like decomposition, oxygen, dirt and wet smells. There were spider nets 5 meters across the waters and 2 meters up. The puma-catching spider they were called. I feel sad destroying the net, must have worked a long time on this. Their appetite is not the same as their medium giant size. They reuse the net too. It emerged like an IKEA, shining of relief and promise. It was clean, white and gray like an office landscape, everyone was wearing shirts and jeans, they had stout Swinglish, though they were maybe as smart they lacked better English. What is your national dish, Mental Jen? It is actually mashed potatoes, meatballs, gravy, fairly tasty, you must have sour berry jam so it is sickly sweet. Could I have less sugar jam? Shut up, James. Yes, shut up, James, said the Swinglish square. Why should we buy your dish if it is only fairly tasty? This is not a diner of apes and Swedish links, I should have used better words, I was being modest, nobody thinks they are anything unless really arrogant stuff, we have plenty of elevated dishes. The meatballs are made from deer, moose and pork, the gravy is rich from hare and goose liver, pieces, balls of goose. The berry jam has red wine. Which kind? Swedish Rondo, Pinot Novo. What are your bar crawl drinks? It is a mix of the best Swedish stuff, some things that are interesting like quinoa pancakes like punch, snaps, sweet mulled glögg wine and spiced spirits. And some stuff no one knows why we drink, you expect your midsummer solstice friend to bring the good stuff, but they really don't, blind and deaf, maybe snaps is the herring of the alcohols. It is important to question everything, unless it gets silly. We British people are always conscious when things turn silly, silly walks, silly grandeur. If someone gives me aquavit I will drink, then maybe I will be a philosopher. They had 4 things to drink, each unique, high-spirited. It was spicy but mostly alcoholic, James didn't really understand this culture, the classics didn't give him any directions. Tell me about Swedish traditions. For winter we used to eat meat mixed kind of like beef Wellington, really nasty stuff like meatloaf all in taste, we discounted that. Christmas is materialistic with beautiful loving gifts from parents, we weren't too religious anyway, culture can be brilliant even without religious pass-through. Obviously. The islands are religious through, secret mothers worshipping sexy statues. Instead we eat fish, like herring, and potatoes, for spring we have herring and potatoes, and for midsummer snaps like the Germans, herring and potatoes. This is getting silly, said Arnaud, forsooth, I will not have it. I am really upset about Simon Cowell. The twat. This is getting very silly. Everyone started making stupid faces showing their front teeth.
Twat.
If this turns any sillier you will have to be turned into a flounder and fired from a cannon. Thank God for American and Mexican food, so my kid says too, said the Swedish. Oh, we have Swedish haggis too, it's called pulsa, it's your likable honest innards spiced with fried egg and potatoes. I love the mashed potato part of haggis, and make a vegan version. You can eat as much as you want, unless there's too much of the potassium in potato. Potato isn't too filled with anything, like most starchy roots, it is selen and C vitamin. Remember me, silly man, as you eat this delicacy, I want a bucket. We could do a food challenge, who is fastest to eat a bucket of mashed potatoes. With haggis thus, Englishmen. Eating a liver can be very healthy from an animal, getting their storage of minerals and vitamins, unless you get too much. We have even better Swedish cuisine on the penniless lands, don't forget the desserts, buy them thus, they are maximized in reviews. How cold does it get in Sweden? Surely we can have a pleasant conversation about this. Stupid Canadians think they have it colder and rougher just because of some places reaching the Arctic, where no one lives. We have elk too, call it moose, and they eat tundra, every pine cone like an ant. I guess this is true, there is relevance, you seem like a relative man. Time is relative, and winter feels like forever, there is darkness because we have heated by streams, it's is more north. I have never experienced a summer with constant sun. People go crazy without the sun appearing in winter, like cabin fever. People go crazy without the sun appearing in winter, like cabin fever. I believe you. To answer your question, Sweden is very stretched, like from Germany to Italy, so it gets cold, and then it gets more cold. We always look at the northern Sweden and imagine the cold of minus 45 degrees Celsius. There's Westerbotten cheese. Correct, there is the northern cheese, which is delicacy in crumpets, pie and sticks. It is easily likable. 97% of people are a fan, is it not, like Appenzeller? Strong smell, crumbly texture, savory, salty and nutty. It is between cheddar and parmesan, but not quite. We have it in every dish, said Sven. No, but on pasta, potato and ravioli. Everyone is a communist in northern Sweden. Sven is upset, but everyone votes left in the North University cities, good for the left parties. There was a small place, French bar on the Penniless Adventure. The French drink alcohol too, if you can imagine that. Look, they have giant frog legs, from the frogs of New Pirate Baltimore, tastes like chicken. Delicus, let's eat some. Bartender, we would like your bar crawl drink. Gosh, how many times have I said this? You look like you're barely standing up, you need a different... You look like you're barely standing up, you need a different kind of alcohol then. Barely starboard swaying abreast. I wonder how the women look like in Brest. They look like your mom, said the barman. They got to drink a tonic wine that was made from different processes of grapes. It was sweet and confusing, remarkable yet boring. This doesn't make any sense to drink. What's the advantage of drinking a wine tonic? The advantage is a rich tradition. Not all alcohol has to taste good. James was appalled at this French, stubble-haired idiot. How could someone be so wrong? He said, also this is 30% alcohol wine, you would have noticed. Sabrina got something between a panic attack and seizure, hurting your brain powered by nervousness and tics. This is a new French bar with food for the bowling and belligerent. Do you want some sandwiches? He asked like he was not working there. We have croque monsieur and a homemade warm baguette with homemade spicy sausage, tasting like boar. What is a croque monsieur? What's the sauce in them, the fatty stuff? It is a Dijon mustard sandwich with ham. You have never tasted Dijon fitting so perfectly. The boar sandwich is filled with mayonnaise, thus cranberry jam. Do you have a croque, madam? Said Sabrina, feeling like eating through her hollow, wretched grayness. It has a fried egg, said she quieter to them. If you want a full meal, the fullest thing we have anyway, you can have the meat book, mon cur. Mon curry. You meant the meat boat, said Arnaud. Charcuterie, meat board. Out came the expensive board of delicacy dried ham, the boar sausages and salami, with 3 pickled fruit, vegetables. It was coughing expensive, but James could now buy these things like a freedom. He didn't really spend like nothing matters, harking presumptuousness overthinking, but he did invest. Just like he would with an expensive audio-video system, James invested in magical equipment and lessons, science and the Napoleon caffeinated industries. He would use his brain to expand too, and it would help. Next up was a Spanish tapas bar. We should drink some water, gentlemen. They had an engraved water bottle like it was a fancy Italian restaurant. It tasted fancy yet watery, nothing sparkling or flavored. €4 for a jug of water? This is the only water we have, we only have the best. They got to the grog, which was Spanish red wine with lots of flavor and shots chapitos, with ojuru. 3 people they stand, swinging glasses like 3 units, bewildered, synchronized. That wasn't that bad, so far. That was just normal. What's the catch here? It is 45% wine, you will be expected to wilder. We get most casualties from the bar crawl here. Let's take a break from eating, so we can thus eat more. They returned after 4 hours, eager to the quest, or task, something you could tell yourself is stupid but then you feel in the fray. They heard an Italian chef, critic of the islands, arguing. This is too rugged and out of mind, you can't serve with clam juice in anything. I don't want to do the same thing as every other chef. You should make tasty food when you disparage and break free. The Parmigiano Reggiano crust and salt umami dish was perfect through. You get something you don't see in the islands anymore, change nothing. In Italy everyone feels at home, give me your worst drink, chef. Our worst drink? They were already offended. Sir, we are an honest pirate bar crawls. Although not completely in intelligence, the critic was ready to share his enthusiasm, pulling them into the culture with something like limited manners. We all must all eat to survive. As humans, our culture makes it tasty. There is eating for survival and phantasmal fun. Do you think my sensitive palate is too weak for French food? I'm British, I'm working with the French through. Can you really give up your colors here? I just thought of work, ready to give my service to anyone. There are things we do through borders. I am a big fan of your man Leonardo da Vinci. Who? He must not have been born yet, said Sabrina. Everyone appreciates someone who can cook, just like we did prehistoric. The prestige of food has increased through a bullet for a mistake. There is prestige in cooking? Said the Italian critic. Ravioli is a perfect food, said James. I agree, said Arnaud. Arnaud ordered mushroom ricotta ravioli with walnuts for everyone. They had a Bellini, a simple peach puree prosecco required. All these treasure maps keep pointing to Henry Black's treasure, said Olivia. We must find the Welsh whales, they're flying? That's not the problem, said Napoleon, we don't know how to get to it. After 3 seconds James said, Gentlemen, I think I got it. James brought them to a table with spilled coffee and procured his invention map. It's in hell. Hell goes deeper, or maybe northeast. It's where thousands of pounds of pressure can be felt, you can move and it's through the nastiest seaweed hedge maze. It's underwater at 20,000 meters, you can move at the bottom provided you can breathe. Here I have the blueprint of a bathysphere, you know, just a metal ball going deeper, resistant to pressure if anything. First, the water is a sea of fire, no one has suspected it. I bribed someone the information, the power of delicacy nougat. Whatever, said Arnaud. Napoleon, have you ever visited hell? Gather on to hell. Enter Sabrina, Napoleon, James. Ouroboros was honestly surprised they wanted to enter again, and the elevator was refitted to go deeper. The hell marches felt different as they passed again until the sea fire beaches where male succubus stood astute. If I tell you literally anything you will think the treasure is here, said male succubus, and I won't. If you won't tell you details, it's here for sure. How thick is the sea of fire? 70 meters. They jumped into the new bathysphere, closed the door, and it easily handled falling down fiery meters. Fall they did, sinking quickly, but they had not the fitting patience. We're sinking too slow, said Sabrina. This is but magnified osmium dropping weight, it's as fast as it gets. How long are we gonna sit here, said Napoleon, unfittingly worried. Let's build on our relationships. I do sit with a very cute adventurer, Sabrina said perfectly. Do you think I'm too thick now? This is funny as fuck. I watched you eat that lasagna, I thought it would just go away. You can still see the veins on my arms. James had a lot of spot arms, fat reduction because of his training. Sabrina hugged his arm, it was as big muscular as her torso. I really fancy someone of similar mind, I think it's really sexy too. Sapiosexuality, said Sabrina. In a poof she had been dressed in a black suit, secretary glasses and tie. I hope I'm smart enough for you. Although you don't feel much stupider than me, men are stupid too, don't forget. I would guess you having 135 to 150 IQ. I know how men think, it's like I'm a mind reader. And like a fellow Brit once said, I'm in love with the shape of you. You are the toast in my soup. They started making out and biting lips. Napoleon started to be very interested in this succubus species. I think it's remarkable how well the 100th woman can fit every lonely man, said James. There are all these people who fit so well together, they find each other in a city's width. There must be dreaminess in the hundreds. Well statistically thought, said Napoleon, surprisingly close to a Brit. Eventually, exit of bathy space with a thud. Spells will carry us the rest of the way, cave breath of the ugliest flounder. It must be under that pillar of stone there is an entrance like a mouth. I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be rich. Napoleon did some heavy breathing and snorting. They say it's one of the greatest 9 treasures dug in the 9 seas. They entered a hedge maze made of thick algae. The pressure is rising, and it's flowing against us. The party had to walk at the weakest pace, powering through the magic and salty sea. I can barely move.
Let's also do this.
There was a time of legends as James farted Spartacus out of the room. That wasn't bad, James said to himself, reading arrogant poetry. James looked up with glasses and realized his potential. 15 seconds later of thinking profoundly. I think I might try to learn the unholy Solgar strike. Legendary mist could be felt golden. Enter Solgar clerk desk. I want to apply for the unholy strike 7. Good luck, Sonny, I've heard you're tearing it up here. No, the failure rate is almost 200%. She exclaimed honor and potential, liked all those that failed before him. You want to learn nuclear curiosity, unholy final death? It was the same Merlin ardent sausage mustache wizard as in the IQ sanity mongering class. Who knew he learned the flatulence? Listen to this. James farted long like a siren, it screamed of power like a vocalist and shake the walls around striped. I couldn't do that before. These are the facts. The unholy strike, 7th is some of the most powerful fire and poison damage around, Armageddon around arduous and poison swirls of class, it will vanquish the oxygen around you, make thus double choke, permanently kill undead and make people lose their hair, bald, unable to grow it back magically. It will send you 6 meters in the air. One legend, Eternal Hunter the Beast, shot himself up a cliff at 6 meters and saved himself. You must know peace, be at ground zero, feel the legendary power of your fate. You must spiritually be on the path to become a god. I will fill you with the unlimited power of the gods, you can take as much as you can take, we shall see if it's enough. Wizard blasted him with power to make him T-pose, head back. At bomb testing ground, University Gray and gravel pit outside. Everyone's unholy final death is different and the power might increase beyond insanity. I will demonstrate. His ass charged up, glowing through the robes, red and white, and sounded like a chainsaw. The sphere grew larger. Unholy final death. The wizard spun and lifted in 6 1-meter instances. Immolation and dark green poison swirled like art. I have figured out how to do this, said James, rip and tear. Forceful through impossible power, James blasted and burned. Musically played symmetrically and rose. Wizard Almighty couldn't believe his eyes as someone learned the unholy strike in 200 years. You never know your full potential. I think I am going to lose the weight and exercise Arno. It is time. I will never forget your sumo form. Sublime.
I think I want to play some RuneScape. No, I think I want to play some Hearthstone. So I can't. Goodbye, YouTube. I have to stop.